hot honey chicken sandwich, salad, wrap, or protein bowl. Hot honey is here for a limited time only. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh. Lace Up Guam, the first Run for Wishes event is happening at Leo Palace Resort on September 13th. Select your distance from 2K, 5K, 10K to half marathon to participate in this powerful event. Race package includes finisher tees, visors, socks, and medals, plus cash prizes for the top finishers. Proceeds from the event benefit the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Guam, and CNMI. Presented by Leo Palace Resort, Clutch, Power 98, Wave 105.1 FM, Route 99, and Protection Concepts Unlimited, with support from our community sponsors. Sign up now to help wishes become reality through your step-by-step participation.
Taste the best of both worlds at Ruby Tuesday, located in GPO Tamuning. Enjoy local favorites like beef tanaktak, New York steak with hog and suni dip, and local moco. Or go big with premium American classics, ribs, steaks, burgers, and pasta made to order. And if you love a good salad bar, their Endless Garden Bar is unbeatable. With handcrafted drinks and refreshing island teas, every meal hits the spot. Ruby Tuesday, your table is ready.
Jack here. My bonus Jack combo starting at $5.99 comes with fries, a drink, and a burger with 1, 2, or 3 patties. It's a meal that'll actually make you happy. Starting at $5.99. Get so much more.
Welcome to Jack in the Box.
Plus tax. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary.
Keeping you informed with the best. Wave 105 FM.
The views and opinions expressed in this show are that of the show hosts, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff and management of Wave 105 FM, Glimpses Media, or any of our partners. As we strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105 FM, the sound of Guam. Enjoy the show.
Oh, I mean that. Literally, wake up, kids. Hey, dude, if you've got power, call somebody and tell them to wake up because, we're good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Patty.
And it's nice to have you along. There was a power outage apparently last night that struck. Let's see. Wow, I'm trying to find out what they said. There was several areas, Agana, I think, Tamuning, Barragata. Those were all areas that were tripped apparently last night. So let me just get through because I woke up Tracy. Okay. Maybe I didn't wake her up because she's an early riser. I called her. She said, in short, the new Ukuru plant tripped offline during testing the units and feeding over 100 megawatts into the island-wide grid. This is part of the long, detailed commissioning process. The traditional plants were on standby, and all customers were restored by 6:41 p.m. More info will be covered at this morning's CCU work session. That'll be on the CCU YouTube channel. So that's what happened. If your power went out last night and you were any of those areas, just here's the thing. If your microwave clock is blinking, then your power went out. That's how that goes. So call a friend and tell them, brah, wake up, because they might wake up and go freak out that the sun is already up. On this beautiful Thursday, it's the 21st of August, and it is 6:21 in the morning. Hey, Dice.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hafa Adai, everyone.
Dice spent the last hour and a half just even Jigo, thanks, Laura. Making sure that we are all ready.
All systems are go.
All systems are go. So it is, So it is, Thursday morning. Yes. Yesterday, the legislature was in session until late last night, and a couple of things that took place overnight. We'll play some of the video of some of what would have the audio. But we wake up this morning to a whole lot of news all over the place anyway. And I first of all want to get into thanking the Salvation Army and the law firm of Ariola, who did yesterday. Anita Ariola brought together a bunch of her good girlfriends and we had there was a Rock Aid concert that was taking place, and it was at Hard Rock Cafe. The place was jam packed. I didn't know that a lot of people were going to be there. I really just had no idea. But Salvation Army is one of those organizations that a lot of people sort of, take and hang on to and just coddle them, right? They're different from some of the larger organizations or other large, because Salvation Army is global. But they are much different in the way that their structure is and what it is that they do. And so not to compare them with other charitable organizations, but it's a pet for a lot of people holding it close because they don't do really big fundraisers every year like that, we would see. You see Make-A-Wish is having the big one this week. Are you going? No, the reason I'm going is because you get to go wear tennis shoes. You have to wear,
Nice,
you have
nice,
to wear,
nice.
yeah.
Okay.
So then they, the Red Ball and other galas where there's just a lot of people, and this was at the Hard Rock Cafe, and pretty much everybody that I talked to last night, they were like, "When was the last time you were here?" I'm like, I think the last time I was there was in 1999. No kidding. I feel like that's the last time, and you know what? I've been sleeping on Hard Rock, man. Chef Cotwell Singh, if you know him, because he runs the Indian restaurant up. God, what is it? Is it Singh's Cafe?
Okay.
Yeah, up at the mall at
Gotcha.
the food court.
Okay.
He's still there, tall hat and everything. Nice. He's been the fixture at Hard Rock, and it was great to go and eat his food again. But they laid out a spread there last night that was just it was. Anita had to go and scope out the offering so that she can come back and tell us. Before I knew it, just even halfway through the table, my plate was already full of vegetables. And then I got into the other stuff and the pasta down the line. So I want to thank Salvation Army. They really did. I mean, it was a wonderful job, as one might expect. But they had a couple of bands that got up to play. And it rocked. It was all, I think a lot of it was like a lot of rock from the 90s, but just basically just rock music. And it was just watching folks enjoy themselves in the middle of the week. And I looked around the room, and I tell you, there's some people in there who need a vacation. It's been long, hard fought battles they've had this year. And I hooked up with a lot of attorneys, the politicians, the people that were there that were just, everybody had something to say. We had our own little talk show right on the dance floor. So these events that tend to bring people together, and these places in Tumon, there was traffic going in, there was traffic in the parking lot. You had to park far away, and I'm here for it. Of course, I wasn't driving, but you know what I mean. I'm here for watching these sailors walking up and down the street. I'm here for the tourists, that sprinkling of them, however many that we have. I'm here for it. When you see Tumon, lit up and people moving and spending a little money here and there, or attending these events in places that you hadn't been in a long time, don't sleep on Tumon. It's not a ghost town. I just also got, speaking of tourism, a few minutes ago, Jeju Airlines is suspending all its flights to Saipan. According to Jamaica Tyron, who is the Marianas Visitor Authority Managing Director, she says, yes, it's true that the flight situation will be very, very challenging for the next 12 months, worse this year. That's why I've been emphasizing to the legislature the need for more MVA support, as the situation is very serious, she said. Jeju Air's twice daily flights last year were reduced to once a day from March 30th until July 12th of this year. According to the Jeju Airlines official website for flight bookings, there are no available flights from Korea to Saipan from September 10th until October 1st. South Korea, still the leading visitor source market, as it is for Guam. About 4,800 arrivals in June of 2025, a 66% decline from 13,900 in the heyday of June 2024. The Marianas received 39 flights from Korea in June 2025 compared to 98 flights last year. So the pain, the pain is there. The scramble is real. That everybody is just trying to stay afloat, basically. And that, yesterday leads to Regine Biscoli, who was on our program, and others yesterday, to go to the legislature. She said, I'm on call. And apparently she was summoned to the legislature yesterday to defend the $11 million in incentives for airlines to continue to build up their load and come to Guam. She said, as she did on our stations and our shows yesterday, we risk losing the routes, the visitors, and the revenue that continue to sustain our island. Regine Biscoli is a glass half full girl. Excuse me. She always will see that there is no defeat in her corner. So they had to go up to the legislature because she said that's not an option to not have this done. So she was going to push heavy, and they came armed. They had officials from GVB and the airport to try to talk to lawmakers about this appropriation in the 2026 budget. It's the airline incentive program. She says, we're all fighting for the same limited aircraft. Guam must be competitive now because the airline route destinations are really being made up for the next month, up to 3 years in advance. She didn't want to elaborate. I'm reading, who am I reading this from? I'm reading this from Nestor Lecanto over at the Guam Daily Post. She declined to elaborate on what Guam is specifically planned because she didn't want to tip off competitors or other airlines that might be watching. So, quoting here, we're really cautious about losing that negotiating leverage and disclosing too much information that could be used by them. Here's the reality. If we don't invest now, other destinations will. Airlines will take their planes, they'll take their visitors, and they'll take their cash and spend it somewhere else. And that was her appearing before the legislature yesterday. And I see also Joan Biden. Oh, okay, thanks. I got photos now. So she had them all there yesterday. Other industry folks, they showed up in force because this is kind of a big deal. The champion in the legislature I see the hotel industry folks. I see you. The champion for things tourism right now is Jesse Lujan, and of course he is in collab with Senator Tina Muñoz Barnes. To try to lift up a lot of things. I mean, we're seeing, and Polly was correct yesterday in saying how delightful it is to see people across party lines to do this effort. But when you come flanked like that to the legislature asking for money, it almost feels like it's a shoo-in. Because you can't take an industry like the Guam Visitors Bureau who comes in with a solid plan. Granted, and of course you defer to the fact that you're not, anytime we talk about anything on the radio here that we're doing inside the radio, someone's listening on another radio station. You know how that goes. And so to the point that she's making, they're not going to elaborate because someone else is going to steal the idea. And now we're finding ourselves competing with somebody else on our own idea. Yeah, bad move. Either way, so let's see where that conversation will actually take them. I didn't see, Regine, if you can tell me whether or not, because she's online right now, whether or not you think there was a general acceptance of the concept, that there wasn't a whole lot of pushback. I didn't actually know you were going to be there, so I didn't follow you. So if you let me know, you can give us a call too. But right now we're going to take a break. At 6:31, we're going to hit some headlines with Skylar, some traffic with Dice here on Mornings with Patti.
Country music lives on Route 99 FM. Tune in to 99.5 FM or listen live online at Route99FM.com to catch all your favorite country music nonstop and direct. 24/7 country music. Classics, throwbacks, and the chart toppers are keeping you cruising on Guam's road to all country music, Route 99 FM.
Let's Let's get spicy at Subway. A little sweet, a little spicy, and a whole lot delicious. Subway's hot honey sauce is the perfect balance of naturally sweet honey and spicy cayenne and habanero pepper powder. Treat your taste buds to 2 new flavor-packed sandwiches, the zesty hot honey pepperoni or tender hot honey chicken, with your choice of fresh hand-sliced veggies, cheese, and freshly baked bread, all drizzled with hot honey. And for a limited time, Subway is serving up the hot honey sauce to spice up the entire Subway menu. So you can add hot honey to any sandwich, salad, or wrap at no extra cost. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh.
All right, Guam. Hafa Adai, everyone. Welcome back. Let's do this. Your local headlines for you once again. It's Skylar Obispo from the Marianas Business Journal and the Guam Business Magazine. Here on the Wave 105 FM. Good morning, Guam.
Buenas and Hafa Adai. Here's the latest from the Marianas Business Journal. Republican lawmakers are calling on acting Governor Josh Tenorio to declare a state of emergency for Guam Memorial Hospital following Tuesday's electrical fire and HVAC failures. Speaker Frank Blas Jr. in a letter to Tenorio called Tuesday's incident a catastrophe and that funding exists to act on Governor Lulian Guerrero's promises to fix GMH. In his response, Tenorio said that the Recovery Coordination Office and Hazard Mitigation Grant Program is pursuing a FEMA grant application to upgrade and replace the hospital's electrical infrastructure. However, funding is not guaranteed, he added. In more news, the Guam Power Authority has received a $500,000 grant to support a feasibility study aimed at increasing the resiliency of the utility's power network and potentially expanding broadband infrastructure through its fiber optic network. The funding comes from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Development Office. GPA said that the aftermath of Typhoon Mawar in 2023 revealed the need for resilient energy infrastructure and that the utility's smart grid relies on strong communications networks to manage and restore power efficiently. The feasibility study will evaluate GPA's current smart grid infrastructure, fiber optic network, radio mesh, and advanced metering infrastructure to identify opportunities to enhance grid communication and security. Additionally, the study will reveal how improving broadband access can benefit island residents' access to the internet, but also how it can enhance GPA's ability to respond to changes in the electrical grid in real time. Reporting for the Marianas Business Journal, the Wave 105, and Power 98, I'm Skylar Obispo.
Political status impacts almost every aspect of our lives on Guam, but many are unaware of our right to self-determination and decolonization. What does it mean and how can it improve our quality of life? Join the conversation, ask some questions, and learn more about your right to self-determination and the 3 legitimate political status options for Guam. Tune in to Challenge the Status Quo every Monday from 10 a.m. to noon on Wave 105.1 FM, presented in partnership with the Commission on Decolonization and Glimpses Media.
Let's get spicy at Subway with the new hot honey sauce. A little sweet, a little spicy, and a whole lot of delicious. Treat your taste buds to the zesty hot honey pepperoni or the tender hot honey chicken sandwich, salad, wrap, or protein bowl. Hot honey is here for a limited time only. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh.
Okay, everyone, let's go ahead and do this. Your first look at this morning's Real Deal Traffic Report brought to you by Guam Auto Spot, where you can schedule a test drive by calling 478-AUTO or check out our inventory, which is available on our website at guamautospot.com. Looking at the southern end of the island, we're getting up and around the main gate of Naval Station. We got some north and southbound traffic there. Up and around Patti, it looks like traffic is light this morning. We don't see any delays up and around Fisheye. Smooth sailing through Asin. Getting around Anigua has no delays, as well as Agotnya. It's going to be smooth all the way up until you get around that JFK and Kmart intersection. You will find some delay, but again, folks, it's not too bad. Hamburger Road is light this morning. Up and around the Micronesia Mall in Dedido, traffic is light, as well as Machechi Road. Let's keep our eyes on the roads. No texting and driving. Ensure that your seatbelts are fastened and that our kids are strapped safely in the proper booster and car seats. It's your Real Deal Traffic Report from Mornings with Patti on the Wave 105 FM, and it's all brought to you by our friends at Guam Auto Spot.
It's the Guam Auto Spot Overstock Sell-Off, and our manager is absolutely crazy for dropping these deals. Right now, drive off in a brand new 2025 Eclipse Cross for just $24,995. That's $2,000 off the original price. Plus, check out our high-quality pre-owned vehicles, fully inspected and ready for the road. Get pre-approved online at GuamAutospot.com or call 478-AUTO to schedule your test drive today. It's the Guam Autospot Overstock Sell-Off, and everything must go.
Jack here. My bonus Jack combo starting at $5.99 comes with fries, a drink, and a burger with 1, 2, or 3 patties. It's a meal that'll actually make you happy. Starting at $5.99. Get so much more. Welcome to Jack in the Box. Plus tax. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary.
Lace Up Guam, the first Run for Wishes event is happening at Leo Palace Resort on September 13th. Select your distance from 2K, 5K, 10K to half marathon to participate in this powerful event. Race package includes finisher tees, visors, socks, and medals, plus cash prizes for the top finishers. Proceeds from the event benefit the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Guam, and CNMI. Presented by Leo Palace Resort, Clutch, Power 98, Wave 105.1 FM, Route 99, and Protection Concepts Unlimited, with support from our community sponsors. Sign up now to help wishes become reality through your step-by-step participation.
Taste the best of both worlds at Ruby Tuesday, located in GPO Tamuning. Enjoy local favorites like beef tenaktak, New York steak with Hagansuni dip, and loco moco. Or go big with premium American classics, ribs, steaks, burgers, and pasta made to order. And if you love a good salad bar, their Endless Garden Bar is unbeatable. With handcrafted drinks and refreshing island teas, every meal hits the spot. Ruby Tuesday, your table is ready.
Keeping you informed with the best. Wave 105 FM.
The views and opinions expressed in this show are that of the show host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff and management of Wave 105 FM, Glimpses Media, or any of our partners. As we strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105 FM, the sound of Guam. Enjoy the show.
How y'all doing out there?
Hey, here we go.
How y'all doing out there?
Yay.
Man, I tell you what, I am amped.
That's
too bad
good
it's
news.
Thursday. I should have felt this on Monday, but I'm ready for it. I tell you, we had a really good night last night, really good day.
Great to hear that.
You know, it's always good, right? It's always good. Aside from what's happening at the legislature, I was able to catch Polly yesterday, and right before he was turning over the reins, right at 4:00 in the afternoon, he was reading the response back from the lieutenant governor, or I'm actually kind of confused for whether it was the lieutenant governor or the governor who's here, but it's addressing Josh Tenorio. And they went, apparently Sabrina Salas Metanani had gone with Josh Tenorio, the acting governor, I guess, up to inspect the electrical fire thing, the scene of the crime, right? So they have all these photos that were released of them, the photo with everybody's gathering around looking at a thing. So they went to go tour to find out what the heck is going on with that. And so then later on, you get this email from Senator Frank Bloss Jr., where it's calling for a state of emergency and the demand to use available funds to restore healthcare infrastructure. It reads that both Bloss and Metanani have called on Tenorio to declare this state of emergency so that they can take immediate action. They called the condition of the hospital catastrophic, citing structural decay, electrical failures, fire hazards, HVAC shutdowns, and dangerously depleted medical supplies. I swear to God, I've read this for 30 years. I feel like this is a Back to the Future. This is like a Back to the Future explanation of the hospital. I think you could have taken this one like paragraph and inserted it into any news release about the Guam Memorial Hospital for as long as I've been on Guam for 30 years, or sitting in this chair for 30 years. And the appeal that goes out from pretty much every lawmaker, mostly from the oversight chair of insert legislature number here. It reads the same. I wish I could read the entire thing, but the plea is the same plea. And that's the interesting part of it, is that it hasn't changed, except for the person in charge or the people in charge rotate. But this is also not new to the speaker, Frank Bloss Jr. He's been there forever. He knows what this sounds like and what this looks like. But now what we're inserting here, which we always do, but I think the appeal on this one is an emotional appeal. Because we talk about the elderly. We talk about children. We talk about people waiting in pain. The imagery, you can see it. I mean, you could see what that might look like. We're pleading with you not as legislators, but as a son and daughter of this island. We cannot afford another day of delay. We cannot afford another life lost to neglect. The legislators also reminded Tenorio of Governor Leon Guerrero's prior commitment to prioritize GMH and restore Guam's healthcare system using all available resources, which now include ARP and that rainy day fund. Well, so this is the key demands, and I'm reading it straight off his news release. Immediate declaration of a state of emergency. Deployment of emergency funding, which can include ARP and rainy day funds. Transparent and accountable restoration plan with stakeholder engagement. So that's like come to the Jesus moment is basically what they're saying. So in response to that, Governor Leon Guerrero, is she back? I wonder, because they're not referring to Josh here. They're referring to the governor. So I wonder if she's back from her trip from Okinawa. Anyway, she said ARP funding was critical to keeping GMH operational. We have to acknowledge, or we must acknowledge, the problems we see today. Crumbling walls, failing electrical systems, HVAC failures are not the result of inaction, but rather the unavoidable reality of a facility that has far outlived its intended lifespan and been underfunded by the legislature for years. Like a broken mirror, every new fix just expands the cracks. She said this is why she's consistently pushed for the new hospital. The governor to this proposed Republican budget, she said, that they claim that they claim to care. But she says to him, Bloss instead sides with military contracts over patients, punching a hole in GMH's boat while complaining that it's sinking. So here are the realities. They can't use the rainy day fund. Only the legislature has authority to do that. The legislature has to decide whether to drain the rainy day fund to provide tax breaks for large businesses, or instead maintain current revenues to support critical services like GMH. BPT at this time would shortchange government agencies that are already struggling to meet the needs of the people. Let us be clear, appropriating funds to patch GMH may keep the doors open in the short term, but it is not the solution. The real solution, and the only solution, ensures quality health care for generations to come, is to build a new hospital. She says, I look forward to working with the legislature to ensure patient safety today while building a healthier Guam for tomorrow. She says something in here that people last night and everywhere were basically trying to say. The legislature must decide whether to drain the rainy day fund to provide tax breaks for large businesses, or instead maintain current revenues to support critical services like GMH. All because of the BPT. And it's all because this lends to the argument about the BPT. I have heard pros. I've heard a lot of pros. I don't know if there's anybody who I hadn't spoken to. It's particularly the biggest opposer and the one leading the charge, a supporter of the rollback of the BPT, is the Chamber of Commerce. I've spoken to many businesses, and depending on who you talk to, they're for it or not, depending on how much you're going to get out of it. What is the profit margin for them if you roll back half, a full percent? And in the legislature, I think Chris Barnett was right on when he said it yesterday. Not right on, but he said it, and I think that got a lot of people, maybe, because he actually said, God, I'll try and see if I can find it. He actually said, we got to be honest about what it is that we're doing here. He said he was talking about Gosh, they were talking about, I'll remember the topic in a second, but what Chris Barnett was saying was, let's be frank, what we're doing here is we're getting rid of all of these things that are important services because you guys are trying to make more money available so that you can roll back the BPT in the interests of the businesses that are funding your campaign, supporting any future campaign, or staking everything in order for you to push this through this legislature. Because a lot of the Republicans, as they say, were actually fancied by some of these businesses, these big corporations, to be able to push this BPT bill through. And the way he said it and how he said it, I swear to God, does it reek of Doge? It sounds just like Doge. This is exactly what Doge was doing. This Department of Government Efficiency run by Elon Musk, that they were making cuts to everything in order to free up funding to be able to carry out, all of the things that the government was trying to do under, I don't know, big tax corporations, big corporations, big money, top 1% of the people to get a tax break. And this was the job of Doge, was to axe as much as they could to free up funding to be able to afford, and the government wasn't going to go under. It smells like Doge. And when you listen back to the testimony that was coming about some of these critical services, they're taking it away and then they're giving it back. So depending on how loud you scream, it sounds that maybe this money is going back because the pressure is too much. GMH is not a solvable problem at the moment. They're to the point of the governor. I mean, if you're going to take away the rainy day fund and then you're going to ask me to use the rainy day fund to fix the hospital, somebody wants to sound like a hero, but that's really not the solution. And so what is the solution? I'll say that last year, and it was probably around June or July, I had a conversation with then, regular guy, Frank Bloss Jr., who was pursuing, re-election. And I asked him, he wasn't a regular guy, he was a senator, and I asked him pointedly, what's the solution for GMH? And at the time he said, you can't offer relief to GMH without finding out what other resources we have that will support the operation of Guam Memorial Hospital and take away the hundreds, if not thousands, of people who use the emergency room as a regular clinic. What we're talking about. And y'all know, you have an ailment, you don't pay attention to it, and then suddenly you feel really, really sick. You go to the emergency room and you find you have a disease that was preventable. But now you're in it. Now you're in it. And maybe that's the point of no return for some people, or it is salvageable, your health situation. So he said the front line for emergency care, or that kind of care, or just care, not emergency, but preventative care, shouldn't be the emergency room at the hospital. It should be in these public health sites, locations around the island, central, northern, and southern. And I remember, I knew where the conversation was going to go the moment he started talking about the public health centers, because that's also a situation where they're not fully equipped to do that kind of work. They don't have enough staff. Finding doctors who will either split their time to go into, well, it's not like they're not making money over there either, but I mean, to find doctors that will go into public health services. So there's a shortage of a lot of things, resources, everything in these public health centers. And I remember him saying the answer to the problem at GMH is to prop up these public health centers, is to make sure that these locations are available for the people to be able to go when they feel an ailment, not wait until it's so bad that you have to go to the emergency room at GMH. Like they become the regular clinic for the indigent. And that hasn't necessarily happened. I haven't seen a whole lot of like drastic movement toward that happening to prop up these locations. Nonetheless, now we're back to square one because there's just no money for it. And so what do we do? What we do is we hang out and wait. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to look at something else that was, oh, yes, the story that I was also looking at. That's just my thoughts, by the way. And I'm quoting people who have the same idea as those people last night who I promised. I said, okay, I'll say something. I'll say something on the radio. We'll see what we catch. But another one of the stories yesterday that was really bothersome was the discovery of the contraband in school. When did school start? 2 weeks ago?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, dang. Wow, we're on barely 2 weeks ago. And already, MU Lujan Elementary School had a situation where BB gun and 5 blades were brought to school. In a news release, they say 2 students reported to the main office that a classmate was in possession of contraband, and administrative staff subsequently took immediate action, escorted the student to the office where they admitted to possessing a BB gun that was not loaded. They did a search and seizure. While additional staff members observed along with the student in question, they confiscated a BB gun additionally and 5 blades. Then the cops showed up and the parents were told. And let's see, yeah, they let them know that something was going down at MU Lujan. Listen, I'm not trying to be that old lady that sits back and talks about, back in my day. But I got to say, this doesn't happen often here in Guam. I have seen and read stories across the mainland where you see kids that young. There are kids who bring the loaded gun to school. You've seen that in different states or areas of the United States where kids will do a show and tell with their parents' drugs. Remember that? I don't know if you remember that story. A kid, this was before marijuana was legal, where some kid brought like a bag of weed. And this is when, again, this is when it wasn't legal, right? Brings a bag of weed and rollers and everything. This kid was exposed to their parents smoking regularly. And so he took it to show and tell. And when they're doing this, they have no intent to smoke it. They're just there to show it. That like they have here, this, little Timmy's going to school and grabs, mama's bag of stash on the way out the door because they didn't have a show and tell item to bring to school. 5 blades, BB gun, that's kind of a lot for elementary school. I would have, for some reason, am I wrong that I would have expected this actually to happen in another grade level above elementary? And what was that for? What was that for? I don't know. But that was another thing that came out. One other thing that came out of the legislature yesterday, and I was treated to Senator Will Parkinson's these bits of audio that came to me last night on approving funding or approving more things for the Attorney General's office. He was talking about it the day before. I ran that audio of him upset that the legislature, or not the legislature, but upset that the Attorney General's office, has these issues before it, and these challenges are all there, but nobody's doing anything about it. But we continue to fortify the office on really shaky ground. Like it's all questionable, the actions. And he says a couple of things: drugs that were found in the office, the hiring of personnel, the quick exodus of a number of lawyers. Yesterday, like I said, again, I was in a room full of lawyers last night, and they were like, you know what? In our world, the news travels fast. When one attorney, a female attorney, got up and left, didn't even say goodbye, and it was in such a short time period that happened. So they're still walking out the front door, refusing to work for Doug Moylan. And so it was that Will Parkinson had a problem with. Fortifying the office with additional resources when we haven't gotten to the shaky parts. So we're basically putting a Band-Aid on a problem that has yet to be adjudicated. So there's that. Are we heading? Are we into?
Are we heading into federal government receivership?
For what? The hospital?
Yeah, that's the question that we got on the line.
Are we heading into
Giving
federal
raises? Yeah, with all the raises that are going around. Sorry, it's from a caller. It's from a caller. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what they mean. Yeah, I don't know what they mean. Are we going into federal receivership of the hospital? No. That has been something that has been pitched by people, like just have the federal government take it over, which anybody in their right mind knows that that's not the solution. Putting anything in the government of Guam under federal receivership. I mean, let's just go back to the trash situation. We had a federal takeover of the solid waste division or solid waste efforts from the government of Guam by that Gershner, Brickner, Bratton that took it over for several years. Granted, what came out of that was what we needed to have come out of that, and that is putting together the GSWA, a solid system that would provide trash receptacles for everybody, and it took a long time to get that. There was also an injunction that was filed against the Department of Corrections. There was a every month the Department of Corrections back in the day had to report to the U.S. District Court once a month to show how many improvements they were making. If you go into a receivership for a public hospital like that, you'll get the injection, but you have zero control. A lot of the things that are happening in the Guam Memorial Hospital, changes that are made about policies for the convenience and respect to the culture of the people who are consuming and using that hospital. If you go through just the first explanation, not even talking about what a federal takeover of a hospital would mean for delays, for not having zero control. If we can't afford to pay for the problems of GMH now, we will be forced to pay it when a federal receiver comes through. And we have no control. They just hand us the bill every month, and we have to pay that. And that's just what happens. And so I guess that is a viable question because, like I said, for the years that I've been sitting in this chair, insert any year into these headlines, and you'll see that every year that's the same story that comes up. And the governor says that the solution is supposed to be the new hospital complex. But in the meantime, we still have to be able to fund GMH. And where's that money going to come from? Well, she's saying that's on you, the legislature. That's not on me to declare like any kind of state of emergency and use funds that you've already been trying to take away.
And some patients don't have insurance, so they're not necessarily waiting for the 11th hour to get help. It's just according to their insurance program and their policy that they do have. And some patients can't afford medical referral. That's all I got. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
It's a fair point, and that does lead to. I'm not saying that it's negligence on the patient's part. That it's always negligence. There are a number of reasons why people can't get quality medical care or get health care because of these insurance policies that prohibit things. I was with an insurance company that covered pretty much everything. And in my situation, there's medication I have to take for the rest of my life. I just found out in my current insurance policy that that's not going to happen anymore. Like, I have to pay out of pocket, and you can only imagine what that looks like to pay out of pocket for something like that. And I'm not the only person, that there are people, these insurance companies will change their policies, and I tell you, they're not liver friendly. They're kidney friendly, but they're not liver friendly. But yes, to that caller's or viewer's point, absolutely.
Has Josh Tenorio announced who he's running with?
No.
Okay, there you go. That's all we got for now.
But people say it's Tina Munya Barnes.
Oh, okay.
People say it's Tina Munya Barnes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sir. There you go.
So let's just go with Tina. So, I've always wondered, with the lack of any information, the speculation is even worse. Let's just put somebody in there. So
Colin Kaepernick. There we go.
He's got nothing to do.
Colin Kaepernick.
He's got nothing to do. He'd probably win.
He got some money. He's got money. He's got money.
You think this is 49ers town?
I'm just saying.
That Kaepernick could actually win in a. He'd have to go up against E.J. Calvo. And E.J. Calvo and the Calvo legacy is 49ers territory up there.
I have no idea with the voters anymore. I mean, we got second term for Trump, so now we can't really tell what's going on with voters. It's like, I don't even know what they're voting
Fine
for.
point,
Right?
indeed.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't even know what people are voting for anymore. So
Yeah.
anything could happen.
Yeah. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, dang, look at us.
Bring me to the top.
It indeed is 7 o'clock in the morning. Make that 7:02. KGUM FM and Daddy Guam.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Cammie McCormick. Hurricane Aaron may stay offshore, but it's a big storm and it will pack a punch. North Carolina's Emergency Director William Ray.
I want to remind everyone, regardless of the track of the center of the storm, dangerous conditions can be felt far from the eye, especially with a system as large as Aaron.
CBS's Rob Marciano is in the Outer Banks where the waves are growing.
We've got 10, 11 footers this morning. That's expected to build to 15 or even 20 feet as we go through tomorrow afternoon. So that will cut into some of these dunes, likely overwash some roadways, potentially cut off the lower half of the Outer Banks here.
Life-threatening surf and strong winds will lash the East Coast through at least tomorrow. The Republican-controlled Texas House of Representatives is expected to approve a new congressional map, creating 5 new GOP seats. CBS's Finn Gomez is following.
Once the maps are passed, legal challenges from Democrats and allies are expected to be filed. Lawyers and advocacy groups are preparing lawsuits and gearing up for a litigious fight. So this is not over, but it does get a lot more difficult to counter these new seats pushed by the Texas Republicans.
Israel has entered the first stages of its planned assault on Gaza City. Correspondent Rami Inocencio has the latest.
Israel is calling up 60,000 new reservists, which is its biggest call up ever since the events of October 7th. And the military is also extending service for another 20,000 soldiers that are already operating in the field. So in total, this would bring to 130,000 the number of military personnel on active duty as it ramps up its Gaza assault.
There was a meeting today between NATO military officials to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine. CBS's Aaron Navarro reports from the White House. Moscow is calling those talks a non-starter.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio is leading the U.S. effort to firm up these security guarantees. President Trump and the White House have made clear that U.S. troops on the ground is an option that they are ruling out, while keeping the option open for potential U.S. air defense to assist in whatever a security agreement looks like. In the meantime, the word we're hearing from Russia is that they believe any agreement without Russia's input is, quote, a road to nowhere. So certainly a lot of things left to hash out between the U.S. and Europe, and then you have to get buy-in from Russia.
Target has named a new chief executive as it tries to revive its reputation as affordable but stylish. On Wall Street, stocks are lower. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Get renter's insurance to protect the things that make your place a home, including coverage for theft or damage. Visit Progressive.com.
Paul's new drone startup just lost its most genius computer scientist.
We just lost our best genius to some new genius who's got a genius new idea. I'm going to have to find a new genius, or 2 half geniuses, and fast.
He needs a computer scientist that can keep his startup from falling down.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
New hope for people whose sense of smell isn't what it once was.
South Korean researchers had volunteers sniff 3 different odors in ever-decreasing concentrations, meaning the smells were fainter each time. Starting out, their average score was just under 10 out of a possible 16. But after their brains were painlessly stimulated with radio waves set to a specific frequency, their scores rose to a near perfect 15.8, and the effects lasted up to a week. Now the researchers want to see if the technique works with people who've lost their sense of smell entirely. Vicki Barker, CBS News, London.
Authorities in Oregon are trying to extinguish a fire that's burning in one of the world's tallest trees, a Douglas fir. It's over 325 feet tall. It's estimated to be 450 years old. It's been burning since Saturday. 50 feet of the tree has been lost. One official says he doesn't know where it will end, but it's still magnificent. I'm Cammie McCormick, CBS News.
Hafa Adai, Guam. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mornings with Patti on the Wave 105 FM for a Thursday, August 21st. It's 7 minutes right now after 7 o'clock this morning, and the show is brought to you by Chili's Grill and Bar, Pat's Tinting and Detailing, GTA, we start with you, the Medical City, where patients are partners, Sherwin-Williams-Pace, Subway, eFresh, Hilton Guam Resort and Spa, King's Restaurant, always open, always local, Bank Pacific. Where others place branches, we place roots. Take Care Insurance Company, Our Island, your health plan. We have your local headlines for you right now with Skylar Obispo from the Marianas Business Journal and the Guam Business Magazine. And Paul Stanko of the National Weather Service in Teason, brought to you by McDonald's. Join our growth and build your career with us. McDonald's is hiring. Visit the hiring fair on Saturday, August 23rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It will be upstairs inside McDonald's in Harmon.
Buenas and Hafa Adai. Here's the latest from the Marianas Business Journal. A BB gun and 5 blades were confiscated from the students at MU Lujan Elementary School yesterday morning, according to the Guam Department of Education. According to a GDOE statement, 2 students reported to staff at the main office that one of their classmates had the contraband. Shortly after, administrative staff escorted the student to the office where they had admitted to possessing the BB gun. The gun was not loaded, GDOE said, and the student's parents/guardians were notified and were instructed to relocate to the Guam Police Department's Central Precinct to continue the investigation. In more news, according to South Korean media outlets, the country's Navy will take part in a U.S.-led multinational exercise called Pacific Vanguard off the coast of Guam on October 23rd. The U.S. and South Korea, alongside Australia and Japan, will be conducting anti-submarine and air defense operations. Last year, the exercise involved about 1,500 personnel altogether. Pacific Vanguard was first held in 2019, according to journal files. Pacific Vanguard comes off the heels of REFORPAC 2025, the Pacific Air Force's department-level exercise that occurred throughout July. Reporting for the Marianas Business Journal, the Wave 105, and Power 98, I'm Skylar Obispo.
Hafa Adai, Guam. This is Paul Stanko with your National Weather Service for Thursday, August 21st. Scattered showers will continue through Friday, then could diminish to isolated for the weekend. Northeast to east winds of 10 to 15 miles per hour will continue through Friday, then become light and variable for the weekend. A moderate risk of rip currents along east-facing reefs will persist through Friday, then become low along all reefs for the weekend. The latest weather information can always be found at www.weather.gov/GUM.
We're excited to announce that we're hiring for a variety of positions with some of Guam's most recognized and respected brands, including Coca-Cola, Foremost, Chili's, Glimpses of Guam, Subway, Good To Go, and Cinnabon. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take the next step in your career, there's something here for everyone. Explore current opportunities and apply today at applynowguam.com. Your next great opportunity is just a click away.
Oh, yeah. All right, Guam. Good morning, everyone. Let's hit the streets together with your second look at this morning's Real Deal Traffic Report. It is being brought to you by Guam Auto Spot, where you can schedule a test drive by calling 478-AUTO or check out our inventory, which is available on our website at guamautospot.com. Grass cutting will continue this morning beginning at 9 a.m. You'll find our friends at DPW along Route 1, Marine Corps Drive, and Tamuning, Dedido, as well as Gigo. Then they're going to swing on to Route 3. That's going to be up and around Nick Tams in Dedido. And again, folks, that's going to kick off at the 9 o'clock hour. Up and around Adelup, we got grass cutting from Route 1 from Adelup to Polaris. That kicks off at 9 a.m. this morning as well and could roll into the 3 or 4 o'clock hour, all depending on the weather. Getting up and around Camp Blas is going to be smooth sailing this morning. Domino's NCS, we got no delays at that intersection. It is going to change up around Astumbo this morning and getting up and around Ukadu. GRMC, that's the Guam Regional Medical City. That intersection has some north and both southbound traffic, as well as those of you getting around Kaiser this morning. We do have some delay there, and Machechi Road in Dedido. Around the Micronesia Mall at the Jollibee intersection, north and both southbound traffic there. Watch your speed limit, eyes on the roads, no texting and driving, and we should all have a safe Thursday morning. Your Real Deal Traffic Report from Mornings with Patti on the Wave 105 FM, and it's all brought to you by Guam Auto Spot.
It's the Guam Auto Spot Overstock Sell-Off, and our manager is absolutely crazy for dropping these deals. Right now, drive off in a brand new 2025 Eclipse Cross for just $24,995. That's $2,000 off the original price. Plus, check out our high-quality pre-owned vehicles, fully inspected and ready for the road. Get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO to schedule your test drive today. It's the Guam Auto Spot Overstock Sell-Off, and everything must go.
Pat's Tinting and Detailing offers premier services from complete interior cleaning and VIP detailing. And to keep you cool, Pat's also offers factory, ceramic, blacked out, and base-approved auto tinting. For more information, call 647-SLAM.
Are you planning a trip to the Philippines? Why not come back feeling healthier and more rejuvenated? At the Medical City, we offer world-class healthcare services, including comprehensive executive checkups and top-tier aesthetic treatments for as low as $530. Imagine lounging on white sandy beaches, shopping at top-tier shopping centers, and indulging in premium healthcare all in one vacation. Book your getaway now and experience the best of both worlds. The Medical City, your trusted partner in health.
The new and improved Chili's 3 for Me deal is here. Starting at $12.99, get a drink, an appetizer, and an entree. You heard right. You can get a Coke, chips and salsa, and an old timer with cheese for only $12.99. Only at Chili's. Great food and value happen here.
We are Guam. Wave 105 FM.
The views and opinions expressed in this show are that of the show host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff and management of Wave 105 FM, Glimpses Media, or any of our partners. As we strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105 FM, the sound of Guam. Enjoy the show.
Big finish. Okay. So, good morning to you, and thanks, everyone, for joining us on the radio this morning at 7:16. I said that already, but thanks for hanging out. I mean, yeah, the WhatsApp is active, and social media is all sorts of active today. I think what's really tough for the consumers are of voters and just regular fans of the legislature, it becomes increasingly difficult to keep up with something. You could walk away and then come back and they're on an entirely different topic. And we all have opinions about it. We all have opinions about what money should be going to where and why, right? You could sit there on the play-by-play and do what you do with your favorite, football team losing, and that's just scream at the television because there's not much more you can do. Who's this? Uncle Mike. Who's that? Okay, hello.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Today I'd like to use my alias as Uncle Michael.
Oh, gotcha. Got you. Is that Michael with a Y?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the one that she doesn't want me to be a male doula, but I'm okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And I recognize your voice, so I don't know why you're trying to use an alias. We all know who you are, but your voice is recognizable. Nonetheless, Uncle Mike, I'm going to go with it. What do you got on your mind?
Well, I just hope that everybody is paying attention to what's going on in the government today, and we really appreciate you being able to bring all the perspectives to the table. And, I mean, it's such an important community discussion that has to be completed soon because the legislature is trying to make some tough decisions on how to spend $1.2 billion or $1.3 billion of Guam's people's money. And, apparently they're having a tough time. And so, I mean, I think everybody should have a chance to really see what's at stake. And the idea that it's only an issue for government or only an issue for private sector or only an issue for people in the arts or only a people for Chamorro people. It's such a divisive environment right now, and we see in places like Gaza and Israel and Ukraine and Russia where that divisiveness can take us to very dark places that people then don't know how to get out of. I mean, we're already in, I think, a pretty dark place here on Guam, but we have good people here, and then I think having your show and media like we do that are free to telecast and bring to light all the different perspectives in a non-threatening way. I mean, people have to understand that this is not normal in every place, right? I mean, not everybody has this gift or privilege. So, long-winded way of saying, you're doing a great job, Patti. I know it's difficult. You probably need to go into counseling once in a while, or take a vacation.
You're so funny. You're so funny. I 1,000% agree, and it's not about me, but I do want to say that we've been hearing, Vince. I'm sorry, Mike. You and I have done this for
Uncle Mike. Uncle Mike to you,
sorry,
Patti.
yeah, Uncle Mike to me. I apologize, Dispensa. Well, we've been watching this. How much of the public is desensitized at this point? And that's how I sometimes take a cynical view of it. After reading the 2 news releases, I said, insert your year here. Because every year, this is the same language, the sky is falling, the same, GMH is going to hell in a handbasket. And you become desensitized to it. And I know that that's a horrible way to feel, but you can't help but see that people are going, okay, what, are you really going to close the hospital? What, you really going to turn off their power? What, you really going to cut off their water? They're never going to do it.
Well, I know that they don't have this discussion in Saipan. I mean, their hospital has a lot of problems, but one of them isn't people being desensitized to the fact that they have a very difficult situation. And the power authority there has confronted the hospital administration on paying the power, trust me.
Yeah.
And they pay the power.
Yeah.
It didn't come down to, trying to use human beings as human shields against necessary expenditures. I mean, you can't do the same thing as a private homeowner and tell GPA that you need to give your kids a raise in their allowance.
Sure.
So therefore, you're not going to pay the power bill.
Yeah.
And that's the government is the problem. Let's just be very clear that the perspective that there's any other reality except the corruption within every government, including the one that raised the BPT and the one that now refuses to lower the BPT. This government is addicted to itself and its self-indulgence, and they are exactly like having a crack addict in your house that you love. Maybe it's your kid, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your wife. You don't know what to do because you love them, but you don't love what they do, and you know they need to stop because they're going to hurt the babies. And they're, at the point that they kill the babies or start abusing them sexually, then you start realizing, oh gosh, I got to do something. So this desensitization is a hallmark of PTSD. It's a hallmark of traumatized households. This is family violence at its highest. There's nothing joyous or happy about it. And for those who out there who are desensitized, they're the problem. They've numbed themselves into thinking that they're helpless, and really that doesn't help anybody except maybe yourself, because the people normally use alcohol or narcotic drugs. Narcotics don't make you high; they actually smash you to the ground and make you don't care. So it's ice that makes you do stuff, and sometimes you do stuff that you regret later, or maybe often you do stuff that you regret later. But it's a selfish indulgence, and Adelup has too many people that right now act like they're addicted to ice, not addicted to public service. So the criticism is not just that. What really it is to call out to everybody involved, including Frank Bloss Jr., who just issued another pithy statement, and let's see if he's going to follow up on it. I mean, you call, this is like the third or fourth time Frank Bloss Jr. has called for a state of emergency hospital. So, dude, at that point, when you have the power of the purse strings, you're supposed to start laying off people. You're supposed to start eliminating unnecessary positions in the hospital. There are 700 of them. I can help you find them, and I can help you lay them off. But the point is, it's not just to hurt people or destroy somebody's political future or ambition. It's to pay the power. It's to pay for the medicines, or it's to answer to that poor lady from Umatic whose baby died because the doctor turned the kid away because the hospital was full, and he thought that kid, would make it to see another day. You know what I'm talking about, right? We have so many people dying. This is not anymore that you can be numbed to it any more than the people in Gaza can be numbed, or the people in Ukraine can be numbed, or the people in Russia can be numbed to it. That's not just a selfish indulgence. That's suicide. You're letting your community die. And let's be critically clear. That fire on the pediatric ward where they evacuated the children and the staff, that was not minor. There were oxygen lines and medical gas lines all around there. There could have been an explosion on the fourth floor, and the elevator's not working, and there's not enough people to evacuate this. Probably around that time, a lot of people walked out the door early because they thought, I'm non-essential, so I'm going to go to the dentist. There's just a lot of very irresponsible people working at GMH right now.
So I want to go there for a second. Uncle Mike, I want to go there for a second, because this is not the first time that you have said that we are teaming with employees at GMH.
700 of them.
Okay, and so most people won't question that, because I don't know what everybody does. And so, in government, when you've got, jobs that are made available to you because someone in there is giving their pari a job, are there duplicate positions that are there? Are we hiring our friends and neighbors as a sense of duty because you're in government? Or are those positions that these 700 people occupy, are they justifiable that we're saving lives? Even if it's even in
absolutely not. They're saving a seat for somebody who's going to eventually be standing on the side of the road waiting. And the poster child, all you have to do is, if you want to envision exactly who this person is Twain Kanata, who's the special projects coordinator to fix Simon Sanchez High School up at Adelup. I mean, you have people throughout the hospital where they're the special projects coordinator to create a foundation. They're the special projects coordinator to hold up Lilian Posadas' left hand. There's all these people that are there to do nothing until it's time to do something political. And this is not an accusation, because 700, there's 1,500 people on the payroll at GMH now. This is a record number. In the midst of this, they're going to disconnect the power. We're not paying the retirement fund for the employees. They're stealing money from their own employees in an attempt to pay for the salaries of people that don't need to be there, while we don't have medicine, we don't have oxygen, they don't have masks, they don't have gloves. There's this real reality, this disconnect between the real responsibility of government, which is serve the people, and that's a worthwhile, something to strive towards. But don't hide behind the lie that when you get the money, you don't prioritize it towards that service. You prioritize it towards corruption, and Dwayne Kanata is the heart of that corruption. He was hired for whatever his reason is, but his job was to fix Simon Sanchez High School. It's not fixed. Lillian Posadas is getting $250,000 to fix GMH, not to apologize for its failures. And she says, okay, I'm going to leave now in December. And meanwhile, they're going to look for the replacement. It's only August. We have people have already died, and then we have 2 fires in the hospital in one day. No other building in that surrounding Tumining area got on fire. The fire trucks were called to no houses, no Ocopelas down the road, Guam Radiology, which has way more very, very difficult to manage equipment that could explode at any moment. I mean, the nature of what GMH failed at should result in Public Works stripping them of their occupancy. GMH should no longer have building occupancy to run a business because it's not safe. It's already proven time and time again that it cannot prevent fires from bursting out in the cafeteria, which happened during Typhoon Mawar, and there were staff. Everybody was trapped there. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry if I'm sounding passionate, but I do care about them because us male doulas, we've been judged for so long. We really want to do this job, Patti.
I know that. I know that. If though you have been a strong critic of the hospital when it has been necessary. I remember being at the Bank of Guam building and taking a phone call from you where you were upset that there was no parking up at GMH and most of it was reserved for employees. If you had, you don't need to name names or anything, but what
I will.
Oh, well, okay. But what do you?
The entire personnel office, if they're listening right now, needs to look at themselves in the faces. Why are they there? We have a Department of Administration personnel office that could do your job better. You're redundant. There's 48 positions. 17 of them are my first cousins, and 11 of them are my second cousins. So they know that their jobs are unnecessary because they're not able to hire anybody. They've already hired 1,500 people that we can't afford. So they're redundant and unnecessary, and they should be transferred over to GVB because GVB needs help running those night markets. There's 48 people in the personnel office that collectively suck $3.1 million out of GMH with their salary and benefits because they're all highly paid. None of them make less than $50,000 a year. So those 48 people, hi, how you doing? Shout outs to you. Move, get out. You know, there's a collection office. There's 11 people in collections. They've been privatized so many times, their heads are spinning. They have no function. The collection office up at GMH business office, it doesn't exist. Or if it exists, they've been OJTing for the last 15 years. They're almost retired, and they're still doing workshops to learn how to do their job.
So, Uncle Mike, now we're at it looks like a stalemate. You know, we got.
No. There's no stalemate. This is not a stalemate. When there's a fire, it's not a stalemate. This is the thing that we were trying to avoid. Remember all these threats? Oh, if we know. You saw the meme that was circulating yesterday with the governor saying, I'm going to fix the electrical panel. This was during her first election 8 years ago. I'm going to fix the electrical panel because you can't have a safe hospital if you're always afraid it's going to burst into fire. Well, it's bursting into fire, Governor. Yeah, there is no stalemate when people are dying, when people are dying in the building because the building is unsafe.
No, I mean the stalemate is between Blas and Matanani versus Adelup saying declare a state of emergency, free up money from the rainy day fund as well as ARP, and she's on the other side saying that's not, you guys are the ones that have been underfunding it. I can't use ARP. It's already been engaged, and rainy day fund. Okay, you want to do that? So nobody.
I'm with the governor. The governor is absolutely right that it is on them. So this is not a stalemate. This is on Frank Blas Jr. Frank, listen up. You need to start being a real leader. You're the one doing the budget. You're the one with the power of the purse strings, right? Am I wrong? Policy is his responsibility. Am I wrong? The policy of the government of Guam through the Guam Memorial Hospital has to be to take care of people. It's in our mission statement. You know this, Patti. Mm-hmm. And so, therefore, they need to be the one to initiate the personnel cuts. Like Sabrina said, cut. And why is the first thing you cut is the Chamorro Nation? Why is the first thing you cut is art and culture? Why don't you cut those 700 people up at the hospital? No one would cry, except them, of course, and Josh Tenorio, who hired them.
Wait, are you
cut?
Are you talking about her attitude toward the budget or Rifle 2025?
No, I'm talking about the allegation that she was going to be tough on crime. She was going to root out the crime of overstaffing at the hospital or throughout the government. And I'm just humbly offering up GMH is now in its time of need to cut 700 people, transfer them over to Docomo, GTA, whoever needs somebody to help them work, because apparently there's a shortage of good workers in the restaurants and the industries all across Guam. Everybody's saying there's not enough good workers. Well, they're all up at GMH, 700 of them taking up parking spaces, and they already have their car payments.
And 50 grand a year. Okay, I need to pivot. I need to pivot off to doing it because Uncle Mike, you may or may not know, also is in the healthcare industry. I was just talking about using the Guam Memorial Hospital. This is not an original thought, but that using Guam Memorial Hospital for preventative care, that a lot of people don't realize that they're sick until they're really sick, and then they go there, and then either it's salvageable or not. In your and then somebody called in to Dyson and was saying that a lot of times it isn't because of patient neglect. We're just stopped by policy changes, healthcare challenges with insurance companies not covering certain things. We basically can't afford to do it. So in your specific practice, I'm pretty sure you come up against people with great insurance plus Medicare, Medicaid, or folks who just don't have insurance or any out at all. How as a physician do you look them straight in the eye, and do you look them straight in the eye if they come and they don't have insurance?
Yeah, this whole idea that GMH is burdened, or any of us is burdened with people that don't have insurance because they're poor, is a lie. Medicaid now has a limitless fund of money to help people who are at the poverty level, which apparently is about 55,000 people who qualify for Medicaid. And then everybody from the FSM under the new compact treaty is not just eligible, but is entitled to Medicaid, our understanding. The difficulty has been in the administrative bureaucracy, and it's not all GovGuam's fault. The federal government has also made some errors. But the point is, the lie that Lillian Posadas continues to perpetuate, that there are these people that don't pay their bills because they're too poor, and so GMH has to suck it up. That is a big, bald-faced lie, and she and Teresa Areola need to get in a room and get their act together, because there's $157 million in Medicaid funds that we'll never completely use, never. And so, again, it comes down to, let's be clear what our priority is. It's not to make payroll. It's not to make Josh Tenorio the next governor of Guam. It's to take care of sick people. And so when you come with a need to the hospital, and if you perceive it to be an emergency, we need to treat it like an emergency, not try to be the social worker on call and decide, are you worthy, or is this truly an emergency? If the person thinks it's an emergency, their family thinks it's an emergency, it is a damn emergency, and take care of them. Don't try to nickel and dime them in the emergency room, and then they wind up either frustrated, disappointed, or dead. I'm sorry if I'm getting passionate about this, but this is the lie that the government of Guam, they're using this pity party card that, oh, woe is us. We're having to deal with poor, sick people. Yeah, that's your job, man. Why do you think you're making $50,000 a year? Yeah. So you got to be. We as citizens need to be critical about what our government officials are using as excuses, because this is a paralysis by analysis.
Well, it's also a no-win. It's also a no-win. I mean, when you're talking about
this is free money. This is Donald Trump money. $157 million outside money coming into our economy. We just have to use it wisely. This is not a pity. This is not them being able to use this human shield thing as an excuse. They have asked for the cap to be lifted for Medicaid. It was lifted, and now they have the opportunity to use it. Now they don't have that excuse.
Yeah,
poor people don't hurt GMH.
Okay, so
they're all going to GRMC.
Uncle Mark
Dedido and Chigo have more poor people than Tamuning. They all go to GRMC. GRMC is doing just fine.
Yeah, what I meant was that the emotional factor is what gets the gut every single time, right? So we tend in this on Guam to constantly prop up the indigent, the poor souls, those.
You're not doing it.
No.
You're not. No, the government's not doing it. The federal government, Donald Trump, the people everybody hates, has flooded our poor people healthcare economy with more money than we can spend. We don't have that excuse.
That's not what I mean. Hear me out. What I'm saying is that they tend to use those stories to capitalize on the need for the funding, even if they already have it, or even if they can cut somewhere to make that happen. If you read these news releases, that's all they sound like, a pity party. And they prop up, I'm saying.
And expose them.
Yeah, and it sells.
That's my kid whining because why didn't they do their homework, or why didn't they put gas in the car?
True.
There's always an excuse.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
you have to. They need to face up to the reality. You cannot blame poor people for the problems at GMH. The problem is the government itself and the corruption that exists. Please accept that, because every other hospital in Guam runs with a staff of less than half of what GMH is now trying to support. GRMC has 600 employees. The Naval Hospital, which only has 40 beds, has something like, 78 employees. No hospital in the world can justify not paying the power bill and then maintain a payroll like GMH does of 1,500. If everything was cool, if you were a stellar hospital like Harvard, do whatever you want. Hire as many people as you want. But you can't not pay Simon Sanchez, GPA, and the people of Guam. I'm sorry if I'm being passionate. And then lie to us that that's why there's a fire that almost kills all the children on the pediatric ward, and say, there's nothing we can do about it because we didn't fix the electrical panel, which Benita Manglonia told us was going to explode like 15 years ago, right? On the front page of the paper, and I think on your radio show, she said, this thing's going to kill people, right? And then Lillian says the same thing yesterday. The governor's going to say the same thing again. Everybody knows what the problem is, yet they keep making payroll instead of fixing the electrical panel. Call John Beneventi. I believe GPA is frustrated with all the excuses
I had Simon on yesterday. He said we already went up there and told them what to do, and they didn't do it. So, listen, you're passionate because you're in it, and so I don't fault you.
Win it. I'm in it to win it, Patty.
All right,
not to lose it. I'm not frustrated or passionate because I expect to lose. I expect to kick some political buttocks. We're cruising for a bruising, and this is political homicide that we are inflicting on people like Dwayne Canata, Will Parkinson, Frank Bloss Jr., Eddie Calvo, who raised the BPT to fix GMH. What a lie. You're not on a Calvo company anymore, so we're going to call it out. That was a lie, Eddie. You said you were going to fix GMH. You raised the BPT. You didn't fix GMH.
Well, that wasn't to fix GMH. That was in response to the Jobs Act.
No. I was there.
Well, I was.
He said it was to fix GMH.
The raising the BPT was in response to the Jobs Act and tax cuts.
No. He said I needed more money because I got to fix GMH. Every time they turn around, they tell a different lie. So maybe they said that lie to you. I apologize. I'm not doubting you. Never would doubt you today, because I'm Uncle Mike.
Okay, I got to go then.
Bye.
Mike, I'll see you at the next fiesta. It's time to take a break at 7:39. We'll be right back.
Jack here. My bonus Jack combo starting at $5.99 comes with fries, a drink, and a burger with 1, 2, or 3 patties. It's a meal that'll actually make you happy. Starting at $5.99. Get so much more. Welcome to Jack in the Box. Plus tax, limited time only. Price and participation may vary.
At Way 105 FM, we're more than just a station. We're your platform, your voice, your conversation. We're talking about what matters most to you today and in our future. And we want you to be part of it. Got something to say? We're listening. Different opinions? Bring them on. Let's talk, let's debate, let's connect, because every voice counts. Call or WhatsApp us at 671-922-1051. And if that line's busy, hit us up at 922-1052. This is Talk Radio for everyone. This is Way 105 FM, the Talk of Guam.
Hafa Adai, Guam. Good morning, Guam, and welcome back. It's Mornings with Patty on the Wave 105 FM. We have 40 minutes after 7 o'clock right now. Your local headlines with Skylar Obispo from the Marianas Business Journal and the Guam Business Magazine. It's all being brought to you by our friends at McDonald's. I'm loving it.
Buenas and Hafa Adai. Here's the latest from the Marianas Business Journal. Republican lawmakers are calling on acting Governor Josh Tenorio to declare a state of emergency for Guam Memorial Hospital following Tuesday's electrical fire and HVAC failures. Speaker Frank Bloss Jr. in a letter to Tenorio called Tuesday's incident a catastrophe and that funding exists to act on Governor Lulian Guerrero's promises to fix GMH. In his response, Tenorio said that the Recovery Coordination Office and Hazard Mitigation Grant Program is pursuing a FEMA grant application to upgrade and replace the hospital's electrical infrastructure. However, funding is not guaranteed, he added. In more news, the Guam Power Authority has received a $500,000 grant to support a feasibility study aimed at increasing the resiliency of the utility's power network and potentially expanding broadband infrastructure through its fiber optic network. The funding comes from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Development Office. GPA said that the aftermath of Typhoon Mawar in 2023 revealed the need for resilient energy infrastructure and that the utility's smart grid relies on strong communications networks to manage and restore power efficiently. The feasibility study will evaluate GPA's current smart grid infrastructure, fiber optic network, radio mesh, and advanced metering infrastructure to identify opportunities to enhance grid communication and security. Additionally, the study will reveal how improving broadband access can benefit island residents' access to the internet, but also how it can enhance GPA's ability to respond to changes in the electrical grid in real time. Reporting for the Marianas Business Journal, the Wave 105, and Power 98, I'm Skylar Obispo.
Get ready to fuel up and save for your next adventure. For a limited time, Bank of Guam customers can enjoy 5% off fuel when you use your Bank of Guam Visa debit card at Shell stations on Guam and the CNMI, keeping your engine running and your wallet happy this summer. No codes, no coupons. Just use your Bank of Guam Visa debit card and save 5% today. Don't wait. The offer ends October 15, 2025. Visit bankofguam.com for promotion details. Bank of Guam, the people's bank. Member FDIC.
Hafa Adai, Guam. Good morning, everyone. 7:43 for your Real Deal traffic report. It is being brought to you by Guam Auto Spot, encouraging you to schedule a test drive by calling 478-AUTO or check out our inventory. It's available on our website at guamautospot.com. We're looking at Route 4 this morning, guys. It looks like traffic is moving nicely around Doña this morning. A little delay around that mobile gas station in Doña. After that, it's going to be smooth sailing. Hitting Pago Bay this morning around Tendon Inda. You will find some north and southbound traffic in Manilao this morning. That Dow rent-to-own KFC intersection has some north and southbound traffic there. Up and around the University of Guam, as well as GCC, you'll find additional delays. Continuing along Route 10 this morning outside of Antolon Middle School, Wendy's in Barrigada, or the National Guard Center along Route 16. We will even find even more slow-moving traffic, guys. Route 16 is quite busy this morning with both north and southbound traffic. Mongmong, Totu, Mighty, that's going to be Route 8. You will find even additional delays up and around Ordot, getting through Sinahanya or cruising through Aganya. That's all going to be along Route 4. Just a heads up, guys, it looks like rush hour is kicking in quite early this morning. School buses are making rounds. Children are coming in and out of the bus stops. So let's watch our speed limit, eyes on the roads, no texting and driving. And we should have a safe Thursday morning. It's your Real Deal traffic report for Mornings with Patti on the Wave 105 FM. And it's all being brought to you by Guam Auto Spot.
It's the Guam Auto Spot Overstock Sell-Off. And our manager is absolutely crazy for dropping these deals. Right now, drive off in a brand new 2025 Eclipse Cross for just $24,995. That's $2,000 off the original price. Plus, check out our high-quality pre-owned vehicles, fully inspected and ready for the road. Get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO to schedule your test drive today. It's the Guam Auto Spot Overstock Sell-Off, and everything must go.
Are you planning a trip to the Philippines? Why not come back feeling healthier and more rejuvenated? At the Medical City, we offer world-class healthcare services, including comprehensive executive checkups and top-tier aesthetic treatments for as low as $530. Imagine lounging on white sandy beaches, shopping at top-tier shopping centers, and indulging in premium healthcare all in one vacation. Book your getaway now and experience the best of both worlds. The Medical City, your trusted partner in health.
Jack here. My bonus Jack combo starting at $5.99 comes with fries, a drink, and a burger with 1, 2, or 3 patties. It's a meal that'll actually make you happy. Starting at $5.99. Get so much more. Welcome to Jack in the Box. Plus tax. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary.
We're excited to announce that we're hiring for a variety of positions with some of Guam's most recognized and respected brands, including Coca-Cola, Foremost, Chili's, Glimpses of Guam, Subway, Good to Go, and Cinnabon. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take the next step in your career, there's something here for everyone. Explore current opportunities and apply today at applynowguam.com. Your next great opportunity is just a click away.
The new and improved Chili's 3 for Me deal is here. Starting at $12.99, get a drink, an appetizer, and an entree. You heard right. You can get a Coke, chips and salsa, and an old timer with cheese for only $12.99. Only at Chili's. Great food and value happen here.
Stimulating conversation. Wave 105 FM.
The views and opinions expressed in this show are that of the show host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff and management of Wave 105 FM, Glimpses Media, or any of our partners. As we strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105 FM, the sound of Guam. Enjoy the show.
Joyce, you make the mistake of telling me stuff.
I just like you.
You can't talk to me.
I'm keeping it to
Stop
myself.
telling me stuff.
I'm not telling you.
Well, no, because this is cute. I mean, endearing. Because you just sent me that they're the obit for Judge Frank Caprio.
He's a cool judge. He's my favorite.
He's like one.
I love watching
Yeah.
him. I love watching
Of
him.
all of
So
them,
sweet.
he is the most compassionate.
I know. I'd be crying. I'm like,
Yeah.
let them go.
I know. I like Judge Mathis.
I love him.
I like Judge Mathis because he takes no mess, right? I mean, he just will tell it like it is. I like that too. I don't like Judge Judy.
No.
And then the other chick, the other girl
I'm
chick.
good.
I'm sorry, I don't
I'm
mean
good.
it like that.
Yeah.
But the other female judge with the dark hair. I'm not in for her. She's a little too coarse for me.
No.
But Caprio, I mean, he's a
like
former
him?
chief judge, but he's the compassion that he has for people.
That's what it is.
Right?
That's what
you
it
ever
is.
seen him get?
I do. I love this guy, man.
One of mine was the one where the girl was like had a bunch of parking tickets because she works 2 jobs and by the time she gets to her car to get to and he's like, man, that's not even your problem.
Yeah, right.
There's another right. He looks at people who have like a sort of a disadvantage that they can't really control. They haven't had it. They haven't gotten under control yet. So he sympathizes with them, and then he'll go, that's ridiculous. There's another one, the one with the bow tie. You ever seen him?
No. Who's the bow tie guy?
He doesn't wear a robe.
Okay.
He wears a bow tie. God, I'll look for him. He will call out racism in his courthouse. It's predominantly white cops coming down on black males.
I think I know you're talking.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think
and
I
he's
got
like,
you. I think I
what's
got
the
you,
violation? What's the crime? And they're like,
Yes.
obstruction. It's like, for what? He was defending himself. That kind, right? He made, and then he says to the defendant, listen, you live in a world that are after people like you. Right. Think smarter.
Yes.
Don't walk into a situation that you can't get out of. And, they're like, yes, Your Honor. I mean, you read it the way I read it. It was blatant discrimination or blatant racism. And he calls him on it. And then he gavels down and there's no argument. You're like, damn.
Right.
He just did all that.
He does. He's a firework.
Mhm.
I know. I love him.
Yeah.
This was one of my favorites, though. I do.
So
like
he
Frank Caprio.
just died?
Yeah, I did. Rhode Island, out of Rhode Island. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's great. Some judges are judges, and this judge was a different kind, and I really do like him. I got a lot
He
of
was
respect for him.
88 years old.
I like him.
He wrote a book called Compassion in the Court, Life-Changing Stories from America's Nicest Judge.
See, he is the nicest judge.
Aww.
I love this judge.
Yeah.
Full of compassion. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we got about 10 minutes to the top of the hour. When I was talking to Dr. Vince Akimoto,
Uncle Michael?
Well,
you're horrible, Patty.
I know.
Uncle Michael,
Don't
Patty.
tell me secrets and tell me not to say it.
Uncle Michael. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Let's go.
I know.
It's
Sorry.
all good.
I don't want to discount the intelligence of the viewers. because they're coming and writing to me on an entirely different talk show that I'm doing on the social media, and they're responding to him. So one writes, "Why do you wind Aki up?" He really doesn't understand. Doesn't really understand how Medicaid works. If GovGuam can't match the federal share, it doesn't matter how much federal money is available. And I guarantee you that even if we had the match, health status will not change. And I go, well, sometimes it's entertaining. He started off very complimentary, and then he ended up with, "You're not working for the Cowboys anymore." So he does work himself into a frenzy. And I did say it's quite entertaining, and then he said it's just the same old stuff from him. And then they write this. "My youngest daughter delivered her baby girl there 4 months ago. It was a long labor, but I'll tell the L&D staff we're the best. Great attitudes and an ability to make things work despite shortages of supplies, etc., even using scrubs for pillowcases. Every time Vince spews his vitriol, he harms the good work many dedicated GMH staff perform." They know they're in this position of constantly, their employer is constantly called to the mat. They every day face these challenges because they're in it. I can't imagine. Well, I can't imagine because I was in the situation where I had been there and I saw them using any kind of material that they possibly can to cover a pillow for me. It didn't make any difference if they all knew what I did for a living and they knew that I was going to give a review of my time at GMH, because that's kind of what I do. But I also recognize that it wasn't about what I might say about it. It was about the comfort of the patient. I'm just patient A to them. It doesn't make my anatomy is in trouble. They need to fix it. That's all there is to it. And I have to the point of this, looks like the new grandfather, congratulations, is that a lot of times they're going to scramble. But I've also been in hospitals in places where they're not scrambling. I went to one and the water was hot, it was cold. I couldn't move to another room. It's not like I could shower or bathe anywhere else. And they did absolutely nothing about the water. It was like, suck it up. Get in there, get out. You do that 10-second shower and then you'll be fine. We'll just have the heater on when you come out. So, a lot of things are relevant, but you can't say anything. You can say a lot about the structure. You can say a lot about the facility, the people who run it, the operation, but you can't say anything about the people. Robert's here. Hey, Robert.
Hey, good morning, Patty. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a couple of things. I won't take much time, but one, our AG, I believe that there's just been too many, the optics is there's just been too many problems at his office. I mean, a bad leader will destroy a good crew. And that's exactly what's happening down there. And number two is just, I don't know, the hiring of his wife and his brother is very suspicious as well. And the amount of attorneys walking and leaving the office, it's just too many things with this agent. I think it's time to look for something new and go shopping around. But number two, the GVB budget bill, we need to get that GVB their $11 million so that they can start implementing their airline incentive program, which really works, and I think that's a good way to start. Regine Bisco-Lee has a very good plan with the board, and they've got some exceptional workers down there at GBB, including people like Nadine Leon Guerrero, Craig Camacho, Dee Hernandez. That crew down there works hard. They know what they're doing. We give them the money. I'm pretty sure that they're going to put that money to good use, and we all know that airline incentives, it's a performance-based contract. You perform, you get paid. It's as simple as that. But I think we need support for that. But going back to the overall landscape in politics, Patty, is I'm very disappointed in some of our senators, especially in Chris Duenas, Sean Gumatauta, and Sabrina, who have actually made it a point to just kind of shut out Speaker Talahi from speaking. And also this rifle bill, it's kind of ironic because her own rifle shot her career in the foot. And I think that's something you just cannot explain well, whether it was intended to go out or not. It's the fact that it was written down and it leaked out, whatever. It came from Sabrina, and a lot of the agencies and departments that preserve and perpetuate our culture are not too happy about that. And it just goes to show that I believe Sabrina's in a landscape that she's not very familiar with, and she's trying her best to survive, but she's doing a terrible job. I think it's time for them to go too as well, Patty. But thank you for your time. Do you want to elaborate anything on what I said?
I actually do. There was a release that came out. I'm trying to find out where it was yesterday, and it was signed by a number of attorneys. And it was on Section 35 of the budget bill, which they said is bad for Guam, signed by a number of attorneys beginning with A and ending in W. And there's
I read that.
You
I
read
read
that,
that too.
yeah. And they list a lot of the same things that we're talking about. Yesterday, that bill was passed last night. And apparently it was passed what the complaint is in the cover of darkness. And with the sympathizers that are in this Guam legislature for Doug Moylan. You know, Tello Taitagui, and Will Parkinson brought this up, Tello Taitagui is being represented by the Attorney General's office in her case against Tom Fisher. On its face, I mean, if your jaw dropped on that, imagine that nobody's doing anything about it. Fisher filed an ethics complaint against her, and it was going to the Speaker of the House, the Speaker of the Legislature, who told me in his own words, they're not going to do anything about this while this is still being adjudicated in the court about what Doug can and cannot do. So they're not even going to launch an ethics hearing actually, I take that back. They did rule that there were no. I think it was when I was on vacation that there was nothing that was of any negativity toward her conflict of being the oversight chair with oversight over the Attorney General's office while being represented by an attorney in her other case. And people smell it, but nobody is doing anything about it. And that's why I said yesterday, Doug Moylan's going to live out his term. And he's going to try to run again, or he's going to try to run for governor. I hear it's with Tello. Try to run for a governor. And people are going to do what they did the last time, like they did with Trump. They voted him again and voted him in again. I'm not sure whether or not anybody has changed their minds about it, but you know, I wish that we could have heard more before. I wish we could have heard more when he was being elected. But anyway, I'll read this off. You saw the statement that was being made by all of these attorneys?
Yes, I did. I read that, and I was looking at it, and I think I saw about maybe 10, 20 names, maybe more on that list. And these are people we know that we see, the attorneys in society here. But it all goes back to that mentality, that attitude, right? That they don't care if something is wrong. A lot of times they just support it. With the budget for the AG and him asking for these special, privileges. And I just think that it should have been scrutinized. And why didn't the legislature even bring him in to say, hey, let's look at your hiring documents for your wife and your brother? How did these guys get selected over? Just go through an investigation, but they're not doing it.
Who's going to do that? The oversight chair. What's the oversight chair's interest in not doing that? She's defended him she's defended him even in the last term. We saw things that were blatantly wrong, and she stood by him, in fact, calling him the hardest working GovGuam employee on the island. The hardest working GovGuam employee. Do you know how many people at Rev and Tax fell off their chairs?
Yeah, that's just like saying that Trump is the most religious person on the earth, more than the Pope. Did
he say that? Did he say
that's like saying my analogy is like saying Trump is the most religious person on the earth.
Well, he sells Bibles, so that may very well be. I appreciate this, Robert. Thank you so much for the call. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Patty.
Good to hear
GVB, get that money. Senators, give it to them, please. Thank you.
Okay. 8 o'clock now, KGUM-FM in Dedido, Guam.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Cammie McCormick. Hurricane Erin is a dangerous hurricane. Even though it won't make landfall, it's kicking up massive waves along North Carolina's Outer Banks. Emergency Director William Ray.
Hurricane Erin is already creating extremely dangerous and life-threatening rip currents for all of the North Carolina coast that will linger through the week. We've seen a high number of rescues along the coast, and you should avoid swimming anywhere on the North Carolina coast right now.
In Texas, where a vote is to happen on redrawing congressional national maps. There is also testimony today from parents of children who were killed in the July 4th flooding. Reporter Eric Bushman has that.
Senate Bill 1 would require safety standards for camps in or near flood zones in Texas. Clark Baker lost his daughter Mary Grace in the flooding and says the bill's requirements should have already been in place.
Camps, especially those in areas prone to flash floods, should have adequate warning systems and not build cabins in dangerous floodplains.
More than 20 campers at Camp Mystic lost their lives in the flooding. Over 130 people in total were killed in flooding in central Texas.
In California, the weather story is extreme heat. John Baird reports.
There are concerns about elevated wildfire danger and about people suffering from heat stroke. Some LA residents will no doubt head to the beach and cool off in the surf. Other people say they'll skip the beach, pull down the blinds, crank up the air conditioning, and ride things out at home.
Gonna be a scorcher.
John Baird for CBS News, Manhattan Beach.
The peak of the heat wave will hit Arizona on Thursday and Friday. Temperatures there could reach 110 degrees. There was a virtual meeting today between NATO officials to discuss providing security to Ukraine if a deal is reached with Russia. Correspondent Nancy Cordes has more.
What they are trying to do is hammer out in very short order a plan to provide security guarantees for Ukraine once the war is over. What does that look like? Are there troops on the ground? Is there air cover that would be provided? How would they help Ukraine build back up its military?
Russia said today attempts to resolve the security issues without Moscow's participation are a road to nowhere. Israel has given final approval for a controversial settlement project that would effectively cut the occupied West Bank in two. It has also entered the first stages of its planned assault on Gaza City. Tens of thousands of reservists have been called up. On Wall Street today, stocks are lower. The Nasdaq is down for the second day. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You still have 40 million plus vehicles globally that are driving around with a potential ticking time bomb, a grenade in either their steering wheel or their dashboard. When we look to what injuries may have transpired from a defective airbag, we generally see loss of vision in an eye, or we see facial lacerations. We also see hearing loss. Unfortunately, we started seeing death after death after death. When that passenger airbag exploded, it basically degloved his entire face. He lost his nose, he lost his right eye. The type of catastrophic injuries that one is more accustomed to seeing in a Hollywood movie, not something from a device in an automobile that's supposed to protect you. Morgan & Morgan has a national reach in terms of handling and prosecuting cases, notwithstanding the team of lawyers that we have collected that focus only on product liability day in and day out.
Morgan & Morgan. Visit us at badairbags.com for an office near you. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says the entire wall along the U.S.-Mexico border will be painted black. More from correspondent Michael Wallace.
Noem visited the wall in New Mexico and brushed a few strokes of black paint on it herself.
In the hot temperatures down here, when something is painted black, it gets even warmer, and it will make it even harder for people to climb.
U.S. Border Patrol Chief Michael Banks says the black paint will also protect the wall from rust.
We'll also see lighting go up, camera systems go up, ground sensing technology as well.
The Big Beautiful Bill Act includes $46 billion to complete the wall. Noem says crews are adding a half mile to it each day. Michael Wallace, CBS News.
A new Gallup poll finds the federal government is the least trusted to act in society's interest. Just under a third of Americans say they have a lot or some trust in the feds to do that. That's far below those who say the same about charitable organizations or businesses. I'm Cammie McCormick, CBS News.
Hafa Adai, Guam. Good morning and welcome back. This is Mornings with Patti on the Wave 105 FM. It is 8:05 on a Thursday, August 21st. Mornings with Patti is being brought to you by Chili's Grill and Bar, Pat's Tinting and Detailing, GTA. We start with you. The Medical City, where patients are partners. Sherwin-Williams Paints, Subway, Eat Fresh, Hilton Guam Resort and Spa, King's Restaurant, always open, always local. Bank Pacific, where others place branches, we place roots. Take Care Insurance Company, our island, your health plan. We have your local headlines for you right now with Skylar Obispo from the Marianas Business Journal and the Guam Business Magazine, and Paul Stanko of the National Weather Service in Teton, brought to you by McDonald's. I'm loving it.
Buenas and Hafa Adai. Here's the latest from the Marianas Business Journal. Republican lawmakers are calling on acting Governor Josh Tenorio to declare a state of emergency for Guam Memorial Hospital following Tuesday's electrical fire and HVAC failures. Speaker Frank Bloss Jr. in a letter to Tenorio called Tuesday's incident a catastrophe and that funding exists to act on Governor Lulian Guerrero's promises to fix GMH. In his response, Tenorio said that the Recovery Coordination Office and Hazard Mitigation Grant Program is pursuing a FEMA grant application to upgrade and replace the hospital's electrical infrastructure. However, funding is not guaranteed, he added. In more news, the Guam Power Authority has received a $500,000 grant to support a feasibility study aimed at increasing the resiliency of the utility's power network and potentially expanding broadband infrastructure through its fiber optic network. The funding comes from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Development Office. GPA said that the aftermath of Typhoon Mawar in 2023 revealed the need for resilient energy infrastructure and that the utility's smart grid relies on strong communications networks to manage and restore power efficiently. The feasibility study will evaluate GPA's current smart grid infrastructure, fiber optic network, radio mesh, and advanced metering infrastructure to identify opportunities to enhance grid communication and security. Additionally, the study will reveal how improving broadband access can benefit island residents' access to the internet, but also how it can enhance GPA's ability to respond to changes in the electrical grid in real time. Reporting for the Marianas Business Journal, the Wave 105 and Power 98, I'm Skylar Obispo.
Hafa Adai, Guam. This is Paul Stanko with your National Weather Service for Thursday, August 21st. Scattered showers will continue through Friday, then could diminish to isolated for the weekend. Northeast to east winds of 10 to 15 miles per hour will continue through Friday, then become light and variable for the weekend. A moderate risk of rip currents along east-facing reefs will persist through Friday, then become low along all reefs for the weekend. The latest weather information can always be found at www.weather.gov/GUM.
Think you've got what it takes to win? Tune in every Friday on Wave 105 FM with Patti Arroyo for the Hilton Trivia Challenge. Test your knowledge and you can score dinner for two at the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa. It's brought to you by the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa only on Wave 105 FM.
Okay, guys, this will be your last look at this morning's Real Deal Traffic Report. It's all being brought to you by our friends at Guam Auto Spot, where you can schedule a test drive by calling 478-AUTO or check out our inventory. It's available on our website at guamautospot.com. Pavement, striping, and marking activities will continue today along Route 1 from Route 8 to the Alupang Beach Tower. That kicks off at 9 a.m. until the 4 o'clock hour. Additional delays can be found along Route 10 between the Route 4 intersection and Father Dueñas. There will be lane closures from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m., so you should expect some delays, and please proceed with caution. For those of you in Manilao this morning, we still have north and both southbound traffic around the University of Guam. That's going to be UOG, as well as the KFC intersection, both north and southbound traffic there. It looks like it's beginning to clear up along Route 16 this morning. We do still have a little delay around the National Guard Center, as well as those of you getting up and around Antolon Middle School. That's going to be Route 10 in Barrigada. Mongmong to Mighty, that's going to be MTM Route 8 this morning at the McDonald's intersection, as well as Mighty. That's going to be Payless this morning, north and both southbound traffic there. In Hagåtña, traffic is still light. You will find some more delays at the ITC FHP intersection. That's going to be along Route 1. So again, guys, watch your speed limit. We are at rush hour. Eyes on the roads. Remember, Guam seatbelts are sexy. It's your Real Deal Traffic Report for Mornings with Patti right here on the Wave 105 FM, and it's all brought to you by Guam Auto Spot.
Bolt your doors, lock your windows, turn off your lights, and come with me into the Weird Darkness. I'm Darren Marlar, the host of Weird Darkness, every Thursday night from 6 to 8 here on Wave 105.1. Every week on Weird Darkness, you'll hear 2 hours of stories of the paranormal, supernatural, legends, lore, crime, conspiracy, mysterious, macabre, unsolved, and unexplained. Weird Darkness, this Thursday night at 6 on Wave 105.1.
Every company needs money for investments to help grow our working capital to take on today's economy. That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you. We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step, or perhaps for a startup, including working with SBA and GITA. Bank Pacific. And we want to be your partner. Equal opportunity lender. Credit conditions apply.
Hafa Adai, Guawasi Pali Suba. Don't forget to catch the bright side every weekday afternoon from 2 to 6 on Wave 105. From big laughs to big issues, if it's happening on island, we're breaking it down with island leaders, business owners, and you. I want to send so much love to our sponsors, Micropack, Local Jerk, GTA, Sherwin-Williams Paint, Chili's, and Subway. Take a break from all of that shade and join the bright side on Wave 105.
It's the Guam Auto Spot Overstock Sell-Off, and our manager is absolutely crazy for dropping these deals. Right now, drive off in a brand new 2025 Eclipse Cross for just $24,995. That's $2,000 off the original price. Plus, check out our high-quality pre-owned vehicles, fully inspected and ready for the road. Get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO to schedule your test drive today. It's the Guam Auto Spot Overstock Sell-Off, and everything must go.
Think you've got what it takes to win? Tune in every Friday on Wave 105 FM with Patti Arroyo for the Hilton Trivia Challenge. Test your knowledge and you can score dinner for two at the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa. It's brought to you by the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa only on Wave 105 FM.
Hafa Adai Guam, it's The Guam Guy, and my podcast is now playing on Wave 105. Catch me every third Friday right after Patti at 10 a.m. for all things environment and adventure on The Guam Guy Show.
Hafa Adai at Wave 105 FM. We want to talk. We want to talk about the things that are important to our island and our community, and we want to talk with you. If you want to join the conversation, if you want to chime in, we welcome it. We welcome all points of view, all thoughts, all perspectives. Call or WhatsApp us at 671-922-1051. If that line is busy, then call us at 922-1052. This is Talk for Everyone. Thanks for listening to Wave 105 FM, the Talk of Guam.
Taste the best of both worlds at Ruby Tuesday, located in GPO Tamuning. Enjoy local favorites like beef tanaktak, New York steak with hog and suni dip, and local moco. Or go big with premium American classics, ribs, steaks, burgers, and pasta made to order. And if you love a good salad bar, their Endless Garden Bar is unbeatable. With handcrafted drinks and refreshing island teas, every meal hits the spot. Ruby Tuesday, your table is ready.
Eat fresh in just a few clicks. Order online at SubwayPacific.com for pickup at your convenience or delivery right to your doorstep. Online ordering at SubwayPacific.com is powered by Good To Go. We deliver. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh. KGUM FM. Daddy No. The Talk of Guam is Wave 105 FM.
The views and opinions expressed in this show are that of the show host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff and management of Wave 105 FM, Glimpses Media, or any of our partners. As we strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105 FM, the sound of Guam. Enjoy the show.
Oh, yeah, here we are. It is 8:15 in the morning, and lots of concentration on the conversation we're having about GMH. But I got to tell you, don't sleep on the late night that the legislators kept last night in action on a very controversial bill that sort of gives a lot more power and more so illegally to AG Doug Moylan. We've got Attorney Leslie Travis on the line with us this morning in her personal capacity as an attorney, but she also is, in fact, the governor's legal counsel. Good morning, Leslie.
Good morning, Patty. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I think that because this happened late at night, and a lot of people may not understand what the impact of Section 35 in the budget bill actually means. And I'm so glad that I'm getting somebody who's not aspiring to be the Attorney General on the line.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, so it's sort of a clean opinion of what you're giving here because you have no other pursuits for that office. So can you dumb it down for me?
I don't even know where to start, Patty.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, actually the Guam Bar Association did they did a survey on this just this week. I think it's still ongoing. And we're not going to get the results of that, I think, for a couple of days yet. But essentially, the question that's being posed to the bar is whether or not we agree with these provisions in the Budget Act. And, the fact that it's in a budget bill to begin with is already a little bit, I don't even know what the right word for it is.
Alarming?
Suspect. Yeah, well, it is because this isn't just a budgetary issue, right? I mean, obviously they're looking to amend the law, they're looking to add provisions to the law, and these are major provisions of law that they're intending to enact through a budget, right, with no public hearing. And anyone who serves in government, I'm an unclassified attorney with the governor's office, and I know what that means. It means that my job is temporary. It means that I'm actually an at-will employee. Governor can fire me at any time. Mm-hmm. I have no protections if there's no progressive discipline for me. If I disagree with something that my boss says, if I don't want to do something that my boss wants me to do that I don't feel comfortable doing for whatever reason, she can simply fire me. Mm-hmm. And you can already see the danger of that when it comes to an office like the Attorney General's office. An office that, I have to say, I mean, in the short time that the current AG has been in office this last term, mm-hmm. I mean, it's been nothing short of a disaster, ethically, right, and professionally. So we have the Guam Supreme Court saying that, he's had ethical issues. I argued that case in front of the Supreme Court, and the court actually, was a little bit concerned because it's not just Attorney General Moylan's ethics that are at issue. It's the other attorneys in his office, right? And I expressed that too in my argument. Hey, this is a concern, I think, for the entire bar when you have young lawyers who are working under this Attorney General who feel like they don't have the ability or the protection under the law to speak up when they see something that's wrong or something that's unethical, which, the court in that particular case found that the Attorney General's actions were wrong, right? He wasn't allowed to investigate his client agencies, not without erecting some sort of conflict screen, which he refused to do and still refuses to do now. So what we have now, what this bill is going to do, Section 35 of the bill in particular, is it is going to give the Attorney General, it purports to give the Attorney General the same power that the governor has to hire unclassified employees. But the governor's office, it makes total sense, right? The administration turns over every 4 years. You don't want people who are installed in the building who are, staunch Democrats when you have a Republican governor. Of course, that doesn't make any sense. The Attorney General's office, though, this is an office that's supposed to service agencies, primarily, right, according to the Organic Act.
Right.
So it really doesn't matter whether it's a Republican agency, whether administration, or a Democrat administration. The Attorney General's office is supposed to provide those services, and it doesn't matter whether or not they're a Republican or a Democrat administration. The AG's office is supposed to be nonpartisan. And so when you get into a situation where the attorneys at the AG's office are no longer safe to voice disagreement with, my concern as an attorney, of course, will be ethics. Number one, if I have a problem ethically with what my boss is trying to get me to do, and I disagree with that, I'm not protected if I work at the AG's office. He can simply fire me. And another thing that I think maybe the public needs to be more aware of is the fact that most of the attorneys at the AG's office right now they're imported, right? We don't really have, the AG will say all the time, well, there's a shortage of lawyers on Guam, and that's true. But the reality is that there was a mass exodus of attorneys from his office when he was elected and over time since he's joined there. He'll talk all the time about the number of attorneys that he's recruited, but if you look at the number of attorneys who have left his office, that is a huge number, Patty. And it's not, you can't chalk it up to just managerial style or, all these lawyers are lazy.
Well,
lawyers.
And that's kind of what he said at the very beginning. I talked to him about the way that they're leaving, and at the time he said, I'm the one who calls the shots. If you don't like it, then you've got to go. And, this is not attorneys leaving or coming in and out because they found other jobs that they can do, that they like to stay, and we wish you would, hey, goodbye at your office party. That's not how that is. This is self-inflicted, the shortage of attorneys. He's hired them, and they're not properly, they don't like him, and so they turn around and walk out the door, some within a week. So this is the shortage of attorneys.
Patty, at their own cost.
Yeah.
A lot of these lawyers are moving around the world, right?
Right.
Like from the continental U.S., from California or Oregon or wherever, they're moving to Guam to serve under this AG. They close up shop wherever they're from. They move their entire families here. They have no other job. They're not licensed to practice here because they haven't taken the bar yet. Right. So they're stuck unless they can be placed at another agency. And I have to tell you, Patty, if you look at, the attorneys who have left the AG's office are not leaving, to join private practice because they're not licensed. Either they get placed at an agency or they have to leave Guam. No one can afford to be unemployed in this economy for, 6 months, a year, until the next bar exam takes place. So these attorneys have to leave, even if they like Guam. This is going to hurt recruitment, actually, of attorneys for Guam because they have fewer protections if they disagree with something that the AG wants them to do. Now, of course, in the civil service, the civil service protections don't allow you to just not do work. If you refuse to do work, if you refuse to take direction, they can be disciplined progressively. Right. Through the Civil Service Commission, there's an appeals process if they disagree with a decision by their management. But that is going to, that's going to subject both the Attorney General and the employee to a hearing, and it's going to become public. The things that supposedly the employee did that the AG didn't like, but that's not what the AG wants. He doesn't want an employee to be able to go before the Civil Service Commission and say, hey, they were asking me to do something improper.
Yeah. So this section 35, on its face, though, if you're going to make a single argument, it's basically illegal, that it goes against the Organic Act, and it can't be done. So what the legislature is doing to entertain it is baffling.
Well, I think the legislature has already passed on an amendment, a potential amendment to try to repeal this section late last night. Mm-hmm. I believe that Senator Parkinson actually introduced an amendment to try to to remove this section, and it was voted down.
Yeah, and he certainly had a speech that it was happening so late in the evening. So, again, to your point, the fact that this is being reviewed inside the legislature during a budget session, during the budget hearing, and the fact that it's in the budget bill, just leads to the same thing that we've always known about his sympathizers in the legislature, to include his oversight chair. And there isn't, like you said, I don't know where to start. I wouldn't even know where to start either, because you've got somebody in there who is personally subscribing to the services of the Attorney General in a case and is the oversight chairperson. There's got ethics complaints against her that aren't going to move because of her role as the oversight chair. And she would have to either be recused or she just have to voluntarily leave, right? But nothing is going to move. And all the while, these things that you're talking about, and I witnessed what was happening in that Supreme Court hearing, and I saw, what these justices were talking about and the recommendations that were made, to figure out what it is that he's doing, and it just keeps piling on. The scary part for me, Leslie, I feel, is that we're right now in our judiciary, in the judicial system of the United States, the climate is anti-us, basically. You're stacking DOJ, with all of these loyalists, and pretty much nothing will get done if even the U.S. attorneys from across the country are being appointed by Trump that are complete loyalists. You can't even, in some of these states, get an edge in. And that's the part that it's the climate there, and it's the climate here. Do you think that's where we are headed?
Well, theoretically, we're protected, right? Because the Organic Act does not allow for this.
Yeah.
So,
yet here we are.
You think of the Organic Act as our Constitution.
Right.
We have a requirement in the Organic Act that employees, that government employees, be placed in a merit-based system. And that's what this Hauser case says from the Ninth Circuit. It's exactly on point for this. So the fact that, in our letter we referenced this, like literally any lawyer off the street, you can pull an attorney out of a hat, a name out of a hat, and they'll know about Hauser, and they'll know that that you're not allowed to employ, not in this way, unclassified employees at the AG's office. There has to be like a substantial demonstration that it's completely impracticable, like it is here at the governor's office. And we don't have any of that because it's not possible to make that type of a demonstration for the AG's office, an agency that, doesn't turn over every 4 years, an agency that's supposed to have career employees. And, for very obvious reasons, you want attorneys who are long-timers. You want attorneys with extensive experience in prosecution or extensive experience in contract review or solicitor's work. And so you don't want this office to be turning over based on the politics of the day. You want people to be embedded who are going to be able to do this work on a long-term basis so that we can benefit from their experience. And if they don't have that protection, well, all of us are going to suffer. And all of our agencies are going to suffer, and the general public is going to suffer because you'll have, less experienced attorneys who are willing to do this work because they don't have the protections that they would have at another agency.
And as well, these unclassified employees are now, he's stacking them. What you're saying is in this letter is he's stacking them with his people under the threat that they could be gone at any moment for anything that they don't do that he wants them to do if they don't walk out first. So we're already dealing with a section of this budget bill that isn't even organic. So that's why I'm saying if the climate across the country is to stack these prosecutors with all of the things that they need to support the guy on top, Trump, Moylan, then we're going down the same road. At some point, that is going to affect every single service that's operated by the government of Guam at the whim of one single person.
Well, yeah. And Patty,
I mean, dramatic,
if I could just
but
say,
yeah.
There's, during a prior argument that I also had against the Attorney General, I believe it was in the abortion litigation case, the justices shot down the idea that they're the only ones, that the judiciary is the only branch of government that's responsible for ensuring, that the law is properly observed, right? That they're the ones who make the calls about whether or not something is lawful or organic, and until such time as they say that something is inorganic or unlawful, no one else is responsible for making sure that it is. So, like, the legislature can just pass inorganic or unlawful laws, and it's fine until it gets to the judiciary. They shot that down.
Yeah.
The judiciary said no. Everyone is responsible for making sure that the laws that are ultimately enacted are lawful, are organic, right? It shouldn't have to wait until the judiciary addresses an issue before it's determined that a law is or is not organic. Everyone should be acting in good faith, and everyone has the capacity to read the Hauser decision. It's not in Greek. It's really quite straightforward. And the legislature has legislative counsel, and these are learned people. Yeah. These are intelligent people at the legislature. Anyone can read this. There's no copyright on it. It's not protected information. Go out and read Hauser if you really believe in this. If you really believe that what you're doing is organic. But I think what people are doing is they're deferring to the Attorney General. They feel that they have enough, coverage. But this is a person who's self-interested, who has a vested interest in making sure that this law passes, whether or not it's organic. And, that's not sufficient. That's not, as a voter, that's not sufficient. So, you have an obligation as the legislature, as a senator, as a public servant, as a leader. You have a responsibility to ensure that your actions comport with the law. And our ultimate law here is the Organic Act. It's our version of the Constitution. So this isn't a situation where, actually, it's a little bit different from what I was saying, where the Supreme Court of Guam is saying, hey, everyone has a responsibility to make sure that what you're doing is lawful. This is a situation where the courts have already spoken and said that this is not lawful. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals for the United States has already said that this is not organic. So this isn't even a situation where the legislature is not sure, so they're going to defer to the Attorney General because it's unclear. This is not unclear. It's very clear. Like I said, any first-year attorney off the street will know that this violates Hauser. So we don't have any pronouncements from the legislature about why they think that suddenly something has changed between now and 1996 that makes this action legal. The legislature tried this before. That was the law that was shot down in Hauser. So I don't know why they think this is going to be any different. And because there's no public hearing, we don't know why. We don't know why they're trying to force something like this forward. And Patty, this isn't just for attorneys. This is every single employee at the AG's office is allowed to be unclassified. He's allowed to hire at will unclassified employees.
Yeah.
Wild. It's wild.
So what about the legal? Does the legal counsel in the legislature get a hold of this and then tell its author, you can't do this? Or are we having an argument before we've asked whether or not it's okay to have the argument?
To be honest with you, Patty, I have no idea. Okay. I have no idea what we all have bosses, right? I have a boss, right. And lawyers, all we do is give advice. And, it's the boss's decision, what actions to take ultimately. And, fortunately, I'm in a situation here where my boss, likes to rely on legal advice. She likes to be informed. when she makes decisions. But I don't know that, the answer is I don't know. I don't know that Legislative Council has looked at this. I don't know that they've rendered an opinion on this. I don't know if the legislature is just acting on their own accord against Council's advice. We're never going to know that because that's confidential information.
What about?
But like I said, certainly legal counsel for the legislature knows that this is inorganic. Certainly that's true.
Yeah, and when this bill finally or eventually makes its way to the governor's office, will then you and Jeff be able to sit down and advise her that this is inorganic?
Yeah, but I don't think that that's controversial either. I think I was saying that every lawyer off the street, but I think anyone at the highest levels of government should also know that this isn't organic. This is not news, Patty, to anyone. It's certainly not news to my bosses.
No, of course not. But that's why I'm bringing up the climate in America is defying the Constitution and defying court orders that defend the Constitution. Doug Moylan is building himself an empire, and he has for the past couple of years, and he did it the first time around. He's trying to build an empire where he gets to call all the shots. He's Lord Farquaad. Sorry, but he gets to say and dictate how this is going to go. And if you don't agree with me, you're going to go out the door if you don't walk out on your own. Because some people who do, I think you'll agree, a lot of these attorneys, I think he lost another few this week alone. These attorneys that are coming in, they're looking at, wow, the wooing of me was cool and all of the trappings were great. I want the job. Week one, they're like, yo, wait a minute. He's telling me to do something that I'm not allowed to do, and so they got to walk. But that's the climate we live in, right? And that's what's scary to me is our judicial process in the United States is being challenged even when they're right. And I made the bad decision the other night to continue a conversation with two MAGA supporters on Guam. And, I just let them talk because I wanted to hear what they had to say. And it was just amazing how people in this country really believe that what happens when a case is adjudicated and there is a jury of your peers and they come up with a verdict that they could say that was a plant. They were all bought off.
Yeah.
But do you encounter, that's the part that scares me. Do you encounter people? Has that arrived here, or is Doug sort of laying the ground for that eventually to happen?
No, I think that ultimately, what happens in national government is obviously a cautionary tale. I do think that this particular attorney general, obviously his style of doing business has existed long before Donald Trump really hit the mainstream. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that he's taking a page out of Donald Trump's book. I think I think Attorney General Moylan, for better or for worse, has his own book. I will say though that the justification for a lot of the work that he's doing, at least the public justification for it, is that he's trying to fight crime, Guam's toughest law enforcement, whatever. And I think that the idea is that without these tools, he won't be able to do his job in the way that, he has promised the voters he will do. But if you look at it, literally every advantage has been given to that office. Literally, I practically, in my office, it's literally just me and my partner, Jeff Moots. Mm-hmm. And Jeff is an excellent attorney, and I'm very, very lucky to have him. But we have, just this week, we received 2 motions from the AG's office asking for extensions in the district court cases because they're understaffed. And, it's just so laughable because, we're understaffed. We're working with one hand tied behind our backs. And the Attorney General not only has, now he's going to have the ability to hire as many unclassified employees as he wants, but what he doesn't have is attorneys. People don't want to work for him. Doesn't matter how much money you give them, obviously. They're getting paid, his prosecutors are getting paid 15% more than we are, right, than any other lawyers on Guam are. They're getting paid the most out of any government lawyers. But for some reason, they would rather take the hit financially and work somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know what else you can do for this guy to try to entice attorneys to work for him. At the end of the day, we know why lawyers leave their jobs. It's not because they hate the work. It's because they don't like the boss.
Yep. That's exactly what it comes down to. Yeah. What do you do when you can't stand to work for the person that you are qualified to work for really good money?
Yeah. And Patty, you know, I'm sorry. I'm essentially just venting at this point because obviously I feel very strongly about the situation. I really like the idea. I'm an unclassified attorney. I understand that. I accept that. It's part of my job. But if, you know, if the governor lets me go tomorrow for whatever reason, because she doesn't like the color of my shoes, that's totally allowable.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're saying to all of the employees at the AG's office, and I'm sorry, this is actually going to create a division at the AG's office because according to this bill, to the provisions of this bill, the employees who are currently there, who are already classified, will remain classified. It's just all the new people will now be unclassified. So it's going to create like a dual status at the AG's office where, you know, there's like this, sometimes we like to call ourselves, you know, second-class citizens on Guam, right, compared to mainland. Well, there's going to be a second-class level of employees at the AG's office who are not as valued and are not as protected as regular employees. It's wild.
It's wild.
It's wild.
It's wild. Well, yeah, somebody just wrote Leslie Travis preach. So there, oh, you know what? Venting is awesome. I do it every day, but I get paid for it. So if that's the whole, if you do because of the color of shoes get fired, come work with us. You have a good radio voice anyway. Leslie, always a pleasure. Thank you. We're going to keep it.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. That's Leslie.
Okay.
Leslie Travis. Clearly, you know, I wanted to reach out to an attorney who was not running for office because I think that a lot of people think that there's an ulterior motive when a declared candidate or somebody who's thinking about running and makes that known gets on the radio to complain about Doug Moylan. It just sounds like one big canvas for votes, right? And so Leslie is absolutely perfect in a case like this, but a lot of attorneys, and you can see their names, a lot of attorneys are, and you could see that she's got to work with the Attorney General. That's just the fact of her position. She has to, you know, on opposing sides apparently for pretty much all of his term in office, but they have to work with each other. So you do have to sort of reserve some of maybe the personal feelings that you have about the person's performance because you continue to have to work for him. And Doug is the kind of guy, you know, you come for him, he digs his heels in deeper. So it's really hard to unthrone him, right, or dethrone him when he digs his feet that deep. And and that's just his personality. This is just the kind of person that he is generally. But I take my cues from some of the smartest people on this island who I have looked to for some kind of master experience and advice or something they can lend to the conversation that will be able to allow me to continue a course of conversation, right? And when you get somebody who, you know, like Simon Sanchez, I respect him greatly, not only because I've known him all my life, but I respect him greatly because he served in many capacities and he does the job and he's a very good reputation and he's a solid person. And when he says the guy's not even a good lawyer, which bites at the very core of a person who's an attorney. It's kind of like standing up and publicly saying Patti Arroyo sucks as a talk show host. Stop it. I heard you do it. I heard you do it. I heard you say it out loud. No, but it you know, I mean, at the core of what I do for a living that I put my entire life and passion into, somebody says I suck at it, that's going to sting, right? And it has its, and generally it would have some sort of consequence, right, for a person whose ego is that high. But he is a bad lawyer. He's shown that even when he wasn't the Attorney General. I don't know what the voters thought would make him a great AG when he was a horrible, regular private attorney. I mean, I said it, and I said it because I have a lot of people who I've spoken to who are actually in it. When you have at the mercy of your boss, are criticizing them under your overcoat because you can't say or even mouth that you have loathe for this guy because you're going to lose your job. You got to at some point trust that what they're saying is true. And if enough of them aren't talking and you're getting information from them when they do, you got to sit up and take notice. I didn't formulate this idea because I just met Doug Moylan. I formulated this idea because I knew what he was the first time around when, Doug the legal eagle and the flags on the limo and the pomp and all that stuff, merch and things. He was thirsty. A definite thirst. And we saw it then. And the second time around, like in the Trump administration, it comes back and bites harder. We're a little bit late for everything, so I'll just take the break and go wherever you tell me to go. Because if you are talking about bosses, dice is mine. We'll be right back.
Eat fresh in just a few clicks. Order online at SubwayPacific.com for pickup at your convenience or delivery right to your doorstep. Online ordering at SubwayPacific.com is powered by Good To Go. We deliver. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh.
Hafa Adai at Wave 105 FM. We want to talk. We want to talk about the things that are important to our island and our community, and we want to talk with you. If you want to join the conversation, if you want to chime in, we welcome it. We welcome all points of view, all thoughts, all perspectives. Call or WhatsApp us at 671-922-1051. If that line is busy, then call us at 922-1052. This is Talk for Everyone. Thanks for listening to Wave 105 FM, the Talk of Guam.
Taste the best of both worlds at Ruby Tuesday, located in GPO Tamuning. Enjoy local favorites like beef tenaktak, New York steak with Hagansuni dip, and local moco. Or go big with premium American classics, ribs, steaks, burgers, and pasta made to order. And if you love a good salad bar, their Endless Garden Bar is unbeatable. With handcrafted drinks and refreshing island teas, every meal hits the spot. Ruby Tuesday, your table is ready.
Eat fresh in just a few clicks. Order online at SubwayPacific.com for pickup at your convenience or delivery right to your doorstep. Online ordering at SubwayPacific.com is powered by Good To Go. We deliver. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh.
Every company needs money for investments to help grow a working capital to take on today's economy. That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you. We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step, or perhaps for a startup, including working with SBA and GITA. Bank Pacific. And we want to be your partner. Equal opportunity lender. Credit conditions apply.
Think you've got what it takes to win? Tune in every Friday on Wave 105 FM with Patti Arroyo for the Hilton Trivia Challenge. Test your knowledge and you can score dinner for two at the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa. It's brought to you by the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa only on Wave 105 FM.
Nothing but the best. Wave 105 FM.
Oh, okay. Somebody, Marshall, is that who it is? Marshall writes, you're a okay talk show host, just irritating with the anti-Trump rhetoric. It gets old AF. Oh, not AF. After. I don't see the Hey, you got to be careful with these syllables. AF means an entirely different thing. Okay, gets old after a while. Yeah, well, as long as Trump's in office, it's going to get real old. It's already old. He was old the first time he ran for office. It's even older. And Marshall, thanks for bringing that up. Because this is not necessarily a show where I'm going to agree with anything the guy does. Because this original ethical, moral kind of standing I have on the office of the president, that you got me at lawsuit on, housing discrimination back in the day. You got me on, these felony convictions and all of these other cases of allegations against you during the time that you were running for office. I was already fed up with so many things before you were elected and from the first time that you were elected, that if every day you're in office and you do stupid stuff, I'm going to call it out. And I don't know how many other people get to do that on a daily basis on a dial that people will dial into. But, what's happening in this country just doesn't go away because you're tired of hearing about it. I've been talking about the Guam Memorial Hospital for 30 plus years. I think if there's any agency where the words GMH, you could find a word search for my past 30 years being on the radio here in Guam, that might win in the search find for words that most commonly used by my face. And it isn't because I hate GMH. It's because GMH is an unsolvable problem, and it has been for many, many years. It's got its origins were trouble, right? Closing out of the old GMH, opening up the Catholic Medical Center, being bought out by the federal government, and then handing it over to the Guam Memorial Hospital, to the government of Guam. It's from that very day we knew that we were taking on an organization, a facility that had no price tag anymore. And the more we live with it, the longer and the more it ages, and the more we rely on it because we're the only game in town and there's no other backup system. It's not like, and true to the point that if you compare the Guam Memorial Hospital to an emergency room in the heart of New York City, you would be surprised that this might look like a premier private hospital compared to what they deal with in New York City. But that's not also, philosophically, that's not also a reason to dismiss what's happening over at GMH because New York is worse. Well, there's a whole lot of reasons why New York is worse, and it has to do with population. More people live there. More people commit crimes. More people are liable to get hurt. And here, it's not premier private hospital at all. Never has been, and it probably never will be. In fact, it just keeps getting worse. But that doesn't mean, Mr. Marshall, that I got to stop talking about it. And plus that it's not rhetoric. Anti-Trump stuff is not rhetoric. It's what's happening in my face on all media platforms, both mainstream and not. And read the papers and listen to television and watch independent journalism. See what's been done to mainstream journalism. And I'm not also saying, by the way, that every time I watch CNN, that's a God's truth sold to me. I'm not saying that everything I'm watching on Fox News is everything that represents what they are either. Because I think that there's a moment of clarity that they have at Fox where they go, yeah, you can't do that. Epstein files. How sick are you of hearing the Epstein files? Don't even get me started. Ern's on the line, though. Hey, Ern.
Hey, good morning, Patty. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Getting back to this, on your topic of the hospital, you know what? They're just kicking the can down the road again.
Yeah.
It's always a state of an emergency, but as soon as they get that money, guess what? Everybody get pay raises again.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that we see. every time when they do that. And then again, I want to know what our tax dollars are doing when they hire these off-island companies to come and do the infrastructure plan for Guam. In the future, they pay the millions of dollars. I don't care if it's a 1 penny, but then it's a taxpayer's money. But they done studies and all that, and they think that, like the power plants down in Patti, they think it's going to last forever. And they always go on the 11th hour to try and fix it. And I'm not saying that it's this administration's problem or or senators and all that. It's everybody that was associated in those things at the time are responsible for it.
Yeah.
So now, what does that mean? More suffering for the people here. That's why people are leaving, because then the healthcare here is so dilapidated, it's so deteriorated that what are they going to do? I mean, what's the plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E for it? Band-Aid fix again? Band-Aid, $5 million, $10 million, $20 million to fix that thing? That thing was a death trap several years back, too, again. If you look back in the news, when they declared it a state of emergency there again.
Yeah.
So, you know what? This is not new stuff that's being brought up. It's been there already. Been there, done that type of deal. Band-Aid fixes.
Yeah.
And yet, they paid these companies to inform them, hey, the population's going to grow, your hospital's not going to do this, your power structure's not going to be able to handle it, your water structure's not going to be able to handle it, and they want to try and fix it at the last, I call it the 11th hour.
Oh my gosh! It's so funny you say. I had this fleeting moment the other day, like that GMH is down like 35 mil, right? Or they're looking, they're needing the $35 million that they were talking about, like the phantom money that Sabrina was talking about. I was cracking up, although it was kind of funny in my humorous bone, that they were talking about GMH folding. They're going to start laying off people. They're going to have to fire people and eliminate some, all the way down the line on what this would mean for the hospital. And then the next day they have a fire. You know what I mean? And then the next day there's a story about how they're going to knock off the power and the water if they don't pay their bills. And I'm like, did they plan this? You know what I mean? It's like, give us the money. We can't give you the money. Okay, then 3 big events will happen right after that will be evidence for GMH to say, see, told you we need the money. I mean, we're having fires in our place. I mean, if that's not worth $35 million, I don't know what. But you're right. Yeah. Earn to the Band-Aid. When I talked to Uncle Mike a little while ago, and I said there's a desensitivity in Guam toward you got a family member who can't get their life together, and they keep borrowing rent money. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, bruh, I can't keep paying part of your rent every single month. Get your life together, right? After a while, the sob story sounds like the one you had 6 months ago. I'm desensitized to your explanation, and I think to a degree people feel like the sympathy is there for the elderly, the sick who are sitting in the hallways, people who aren't getting pillowcases and, in need of medical supplies. We get it. At the same time, the story is always the same. And people just get...
Yeah, it's always a sad sob story and stuff and all that, but yet they're the one to put themselves in that position. We didn't put them in that position. We did our part. We do our parts by paying our taxes, and how that they spent it, and what they feel that they should be getting, and all that kind of stuff. They did that to themselves.
Okay.
And then again, the legislature, the senators say, "Oh yeah, they do need that." Yes, I agree. People do need to get raises because of cost and everything and all that, but yet, at what expense?
Yeah. I hear you. Ern, you speak for a lot of people, so I appreciate you coming on the radio today and venting as well. Thanks for that.
All right, you're welcome. Yeah, I was listening. I mean, I still listen to you guys.
You still? What do you mean you still listen?
It's just some stuff that I'm sorry to say, like when you mentioned the other morning when you almost hit that guy that wasn't.
Oh yeah, twice.
See, so
yeah,
and when you almost said that you almost hit a guy while you're going into work in the crosswalk or something like that the other morning.
Yeah.
See, simple law. Means stuff to save people's lives. They won't do it because then they didn't think of it. Because then it wasn't their idea. They're more worried about their legacy of saying, "Oh, I did that. I made that law, whatever, and all that." But then again, when the common folk come up with it, they don't want to do it. They should make it a law where that at dusk till dawn, if you're out and about, running, jogging, walking, or whatever the case may be, they should have some reflective material being worn. And if you're caught without it, then that kind of fine. I mean, I'm sorry if they're homeless. I didn't put them to be homeless. There's some of them, on what I've heard, is that 90% of them chose to be homeless. So, that's one way to go and save lives. And then again, with the traffic signs or the speed limit signs, there's a whole bunch of them that's been missing for over 2 years already, since Mawar.
Oh.
Then they said that, they're supposed to get this funding to replace it, whatever, like this, like that, federal like this, federal that, and stuff and all that. And I said, well, instead of putting it on the side of the road, put it at every traffic light. So that when they do get a speeding ticket, they can't say that they didn't see it, because then everybody looks at the traffic light to make sure that it doesn't change.
Yeah.
I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong. It's just not on the list of the priorities. I guess that's how that works, right?
Exactly. And then when people go, there's no speed limit sign there, so that's why I was doing 70 miles an hour. Right?
Yeah, I get it. Hey, listen, man, I don't want to get you into a frenzy here, but I respect your points. Thanks a lot for calling us back.
All right, you guys have good morning. Hey, guys.
All right, take good care. Yeah, I still listen to you guys. You ever see that new TikTok? I'll tell you after 9, because it's already 9. We're going to get into, what's in your algorithm. That's ahead here on Mornings with Patti. We are KGUM-FM in Dedido, Guam.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Cammie McCormick. North Carolina is bracing for what's to come from Hurricane Aaron. Emergency Director William Ray.
Extremely large, dangerous waves forecasted around 20 feet in height, along with storm surge of 2 to 4 feet on top of the surf, will likely impact the dunes along portions of the North Carolina coast.
CBS's Rob Marciano is in the Outer Banks.
The worst is coming here in the next 24 hours, but then the waves and the wind will be going up towards the northeast as we head towards Friday. It'll still be several days before we can get rid of this historic hurricane in the form of Hurricane Aaron.
The vote to draw the congressional map in Texas to open more GOP seats will come up soon at the State House, but emotions are still high. Reporter Jack Fink is there.
Democrats have sharply criticized these new maps, saying they violate the Voting Rights Act, they hurt black and brown communities. Republicans deny that and say they are following the law, but they're also based on political performance, which Republicans say the courts have allowed.
A federal judge has temporarily blocked Texas from requiring some public school districts to post the 10 Commandments in classrooms. Israel has begun the initial phase of its assault on Gaza City. Tens of thousands of reservists have been called up, as Rami Inocencio reports.
Today, our CBS News producer in Gaza, Marwan Al-Ghul, told us that Israel's military has already effectively encircled Gaza City. He said from the east, from the south and the north, that it's hit more neighborhoods in the past day, and that it has also dropped evacuation leaflets. He also tells us that people he's spoken with are not going to leave. That's despite the danger. He tells us that they are desperate, but they also don't have the ability, and they also don't have the place to which they can evacuate.
Israel has also given final approval for a controversial settlement project that would effectively cut the occupied West Bank in two. In Washington, a National Guard vehicle collided with a civilian car car today near the Capitol, sending one person to the hospital. The Guard is assisting in the president's anti-crime effort. Hertz says its car sales unit is partnering with Amazon to sell pre-owned vehicles. Jason Brooks reports.
Starting today, Hertz says customers within 75 miles of Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, and Seattle can browse Hertz vehicles on Amazon Auto, make the purchase online, and then pick up the vehicle at the Hertz location in one of those 4 cities. Shares in Hertz jumped on the announcement, while shares plummeted for used car dealers like CarMax and Carvana.
This is CBS News.
Progressive Insurance, with insurance for cars, home, boat, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com.
I'm Matt Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Your car steering wheel could be a ticking time bomb. At least 24 people have died and many more injured because their airbags fired shrapnel at them upon inflating. Tens of millions of cars have been recalled. If you suffered cuts that required stitches, hearing or vision loss, or broken bones, please contact us today. You could be owed money for medical bills and other damages.
Morgan & Morgan. Visit us at badairbags.com for an office near you. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Claire's has sold most of its North American business after filing for bankruptcy. Weight loss drugs for your pets? Stacey Lynn reports they could soon be on the way.
Charlie a little chunky, Rover looking robust. It's not just humans who are dealing with some extra pounds. And now the same type of weight loss drugs that are helping many people drop the lbs could soon be used for your fat, furry friends as well. Pharmaceutical companies are tapping the same science behind drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy to develop similar treatments for pets. One biotech firm, Okava, says it expects to roll out its version by the end of the decade, which could help give your plump pooch a longer life. Stacey Lynn, CBS News.
The Powerball jackpot has grown to $643 million. Nobody won in Monday's drawing. Tonight's winning would be the biggest of the year. I'm Cammie McCormick, CBS News.
At Wave 105 FM, we're more than just a station. We're your platform, your voice, your conversation. We're talking about what matters most to you today and in our future. And we want you to be part of it. Got something to say? We're listening. Different opinions? Bring them on. Let's talk, let's debate, let's connect, because every voice counts. Call or WhatsApp us at 671-922-1051. And if that line's busy, hit us up at 922-1052. This is Talk Radio for everyone. This is Wave 105 FM, the talk of Guam.
Americans are still shopping a little more every month, but we're doing it in a different way. I'm Jeff Colvin of Fortune magazine with the Fortune Business Update. Retail spending grew at a healthy pace last month, but shoppers are increasingly seeking bargains. For example, consumers spent a little more dining out, but said they're cutting back. The explanation is they're going to less expensive restaurants. Shoppers are buying groceries more frequently, but spending less money per trip. Spending fell for furniture, electronics, and appliances, where prices are starting to rise from tariffs. Consumers are even looking for bargains in luxury goods. Over a quarter of U.S. adults say they've cut back spending on luxury items, and the same proportion say they've bought refurbished or used luxury items. Economists say this is the way consumers behave in times of economic uncertainty, a trend that could last a while. I'm Jeff Colvin.
Country music lives on Route 99 FM. Tune in to 99.5 FM or listen live online at Route99FM.com to catch all your favorite country music nonstop and direct. 24/7 country music. Classics, throwbacks, and the chart toppers are keeping you cruising on Guam's road to all country music, Route 99 FM.
I'm Larry Magid with the Connect Safely report.
An increasing number of young people are being targeted by scams designed to exploit them. And if this happens to someone you love, don't blame the victim. Connect Safely Education Director Carrie Gallagher helped draft recommendations from the Online Child Exploitation Prevention Initiative.
The overall message of any prevention program should be that when and if this happens to you, we've got your back. And the people who perpetrate these particular types of schemes are very good at what they do. So when and if it does happen to you, just know it's not your fault and we want to support you.
So regardless of whether the victim is a child or an adult, it's important to realize that the victim is not to blame. Try to put aside any feelings of shame or guilt and seek help. More at connectsafely.org/radio. With the Connect Safely Report, I'm Larry Magid for CBS News.
One pill can kill. Fake pills often contain fentanyl. It only takes 2 milligrams of fentanyl, equivalent to a few grains of salt, to be lethal. Fake pills are often sold on social media platforms, making them available to anyone with a smartphone.
Talk early and often to youth about the dangers of misusing prescription drugs and the lethal dangers of counterfeit drugs laced with fentanyl.
Stay informed, stay safe. One pill can kill.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the radio stations of Glimpses Media Group, Wave 105 FM and Power 98.
Are you planning a trip to the Philippines? Why not come back feeling healthier and more rejuvenated? At the Medical City, we offer world-class healthcare services, including comprehensive executive checkups and top-tier aesthetic treatments for as low as $530. Imagine lounging on white sandy beaches, shopping at top-tier shopping centers, and indulging in premium healthcare all in one vacation. Book your getaway now and experience the best of both worlds. The Medical City, your trusted partner in health.
Every company needs money for investments to help grow our working capital to take on today's economy. That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you. We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step, or perhaps for a startup, including working with SBA and GITA. Bank Pacific. And we want to be your partner. Equal opportunity lender. Credit conditions apply.
Jack here. My bonus Jack combo starting at $5.99 comes with fries, a drink, and a burger with 1, 2, or 3 patties. It's a meal that'll actually make you happy. Starting at $5.99. Get so much more. Welcome to Jack in the Box. Plus tax, limited time only. Price and participation may vary.
Keeping the flow through your day. Wave 105 FM.
The views and opinions expressed in this show are that of the show host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff and management of Wave 105 FM, Glimpses Media, or any of our partners. As we strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105 FM, the sound of Guam. Enjoy the show.
I'm ready. I'm just dilly-dallying.
Okay. All right.
Because, you know.
Uh-oh.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it's been a long morning. You know, there's been a lot of conversation. Some of it pretty darn passionate, right? Okay. So, like smaller things, like trying to open this here.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, these things that they have these protective films. Oh, I got it.
Right.
They have these protective films that you know, hold something together. I don't. Why do they do that to old people? Just. Why do y'all do that? Why do y'all make pills that like when you do like the safety thing right for kids? You got to remember I'm degenerating here.
I'm in trouble on that seal, I see. Okay.
You know what?
The
It's
safety
just-
seal. That's the one you mean? Like all the Tylenol
You never have problems with that? Don't answer that.
Won't answer. Thou
You
shalt
don't
not-
have any
I'm not
problems with it.
even-
No, no. I think that for, golly, I just sound really bad, don't I? I can't get out of this one. Yeah, I'm just gonna shut up. They have these seals. Okay, case in point. Look at this tube. This tube. I don't know what it is. It's something. It's some kind of facial thing. Okay, so I open it. Guess what's on there? This thing. See it?
Sealed on seals.
Seal on seal.
Seal on seal.
How am I supposed to get that off? You know what I mean? I'm going to stick a needle in there. I tried to open a Gatorade bottle the other day. I almost broke my wrist.
Seal on seal.
But I also asked the strongest person in the house to open it, and they were failures also.
Hey,
Oh, I got it off.
that's good. It's child-proof. That's great.
That's what I was looking
it's
for.
child-proof.
They also make it adult-proof.
And
some of
sometimes
these things are just too much.
Sometimes it can be a little tricky.
Yeah, right?
It can be.
You have zero problems opening up. Oh, I mean,
No.
jars? Oh, you
No,
probably don't.
no,
Jar.
no.
You're not at the jar. I can't open a jar thing.
No, I'm good. I'm okay with that. It's the larger like the larger strollers that.
Oh, see, I'm good at that.
It's the big strollers. I mean, then you got to detach the car seat to the stroller, press this button, fold this down. I'm like, you know what? Never mind, just walk.
It's a transformer. That's
walk.
what it is. It's those things are transformers.
They can be kind of tricky, you know. Yeah,
But I
think
wish
the
they
strollers can
had
be a little
them.
tricky.
I wish they had them when I was raising babies, because you basically don't have to do anything anymore. I want to travel with a toddler now, only because they have the suitcases that you could place the kid on the top of the suitcase and just roll them down the street.
Good luck. Kids hate strollers. They hate strollers. They hate car seats.
I would
man.
be in a stroller. Give me
tell
a
you.
stroller and give me the opportunity to be one. Let's go. Let's go. We're going to Payless shopping in
Be
the
out
stroller.
in public, and these kids are screaming like you're trying to kill them. It's like, don't do that in public. It's like,
Yeah,
not
try
right
not to do
now.
that. Don't
do
beat that kid
right
like
now.
that, please. Don't. Yeah.
Kids, man, they're
Would you ride in a stroller if it was all cool to do it?
I would.
Dude, I don't want to walk anymore.
I am. I tried to get on the one at Village of Donkey. They said it's for, those
Oh, it's
people.
for the disabled.
Yeah, I was
Can't
like-
do it.
I did. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, it's a TikTok. They're like, Dice, really? It's Donkey. We're shopping. Okay. All right. Do
You
my
kn-
TikTok later. I'm just
Yeah,
going to do
wrong
a
answer.
TikTok. Yeah.
Wrong answer. This is definitely part
It
of the
would've been
video,
good. I
FYI.
know, right? You could have got a lot of hits.
Yeah, could have got
You
a lot of
coulda
hits.
got a lot of hits.
But look at you.
I'm
you
out.
You ruined it. You ruined it.
it.
Well, at least you had a good reason. I was at Payless. We went to lunch, and then I said, "Hey, let's go to Payless. I need something at the mall." So we go to the Micro, and I was walking into Payless, and they have this for those who are compromised.
Yes.
The carts with the big basket.
Uh-huh.
My first thought was, "Oh, my feet are killing me. Get on it." And then I realized, what are you doing, you lazy old lady? You're still walking. Stop it. Your feet might hurt. There are people whose feet are hurting and they don't even know they're hurting because everything else hurts, and which is why they need the cart, not you. But my feet were hurting. I wish. So now that they also have in the airports. Now, see, I have to travel through an airport next week.
Oh, the airports have.
And I'm not,
wrapped
and
up.
I have to go through Honolulu, and I am not happy about that.
They have Apple Plus now too. Yes.
What do you mean, Apple
Oh,
Plus?
they got
What?
Apple on TV. So, yeah.
Oh, you on
United?
United you can watch
Yeah,
Severance.
yeah,
My
dude.
brother watches Severance, and he says to, is
Yes.
it good?
It is.
Okay, so that'll be my movie
It
of
is.
choice then
I
on
like
the
it.
plane.
United
I'll make sure that I go.
and an Apple. I think that's
Okay.
great. Yes. Thank
well,
you.
I haven't been on a plane since December. No, I
Okay.
take that back. But I haven't
Yeah,
been on
so-
that route since December, so perhaps I'm
They're
going to learn
throwing
some
in some
things.
stuff. Nicely
Okay,
done. Great little
okay.
incentives. I'm like, okay, I ain't mad at a little Apple TV
Yeah.
on United. What?
Okay.
Little level up. a
But
little
walking through the airports, they have those suitcases where you can stand on them. They're people movers.
Love 'em.
On your suitcase. I'm embarrassed to be the person to do that. I would totally do it. Don't be
would.
embarrassed.
Not at all.
Where do you buy that?
No, I love
Laura,
those.
where do I buy one?
Really, I think those
Laura's
going to
look it up.
Actually. I think they're pretty cool. I
Yeah,
think those
they're
are-
like
I think those
they're
are
like
really neat.
people movers. Like the what do they call those ones that you could stand on before? There's something way.
The segways.
Yes,
yeah,
the
segways. Yeah, it's okay. No. Only because some friends of mine, they play around with those things. That's why I'm familiar. So friends of mine have.
I
them. They're
would
really
to-
cool.
if you could, if
They're
it was
really neat.
allowed in the airport. Are you not allowed to use that kind of
Dude,
mechanical
hold on.
transportation?
We have one of our guys downstairs, and he rides an electric vehicle to work every day. The little scooter. I see him every morning, Patty. That sucker goes at least 65, 75. I'm telling Marcus, just because I'm jealous because I don't have one.
because I don't have one.
Right, because I'm telling Marcus you're speeding in the parking lot. That looks fun, by the way.
So
but
true.
I'm still telling.
So true.
He does. They ain't got a little electric scooter. I'm like, dude, get out of here. What? I'm telling Marcus. Just a big hater. Just hating.
Hey, I'm with you, man.
I'm just hating. Yeah, so he comes to work every day on this electric scooter, and I'm like, man, I am not mad at that. I'm mad at myself right now because I want one. That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, I have that too.
Get on it.
I have like that kind of envy.
It is really cool.
Although,
It's really cool.
so yesterday at the Salvation Army. Yeah, and the Salvation Army the fundraiser, they had a silent auction.
Okay.
So I was walking around. I had been on a couple of things, right?
Okay.
Which apparently,
What'd you get?
I'm too cheap because everybody else like blew me away by $5.
It's
if I'd gone back
Salvation
to,
Army. It should be cheap. I mean, they're like 30 cents, 20 cents.
Oh no, not that kind. It's not used goods. They're prizes.
Oh, okay.
Like that's the Bix had a suit they were doing.
Yes.
Somebody bid $200 on this suit and won. Somebody else bought like a hoodie.
Wow.
A Hard Rock Cafe hoodie.
That's cool.
That
Okay.
said Saipan on it.
Okay.
I mean, the merch from Hard Rock Cafe in Saipan is being brought to Guam, and they're selling it for like 50% off. So my friend bids on
That
the hoodie.
guitar stopped spinning years
Exactly.
ago.
I know, right?
That guitar doesn't
So
spin
all
no
the
more,
merch
dude.
is a half price on Guam. So my friend buys the hoodie, and she's like, "This because it's a really nice hoodie. It's brown. I would have bought it too." But she looks at it, she goes, "Oh my God, look!" And the bottom of it said Saipan instead of Hard Rock Cafe Guam. And I said, "That's girl."
That's cool.
That's vintage now. You know what I mean? That's a collector's item because they're not open in Saipan.
Yeah.
So Hard Rock Cafe, I would have bought that.
I
definitely would have bought
loved the
that.
food. Hard Rock always had great food.
Dude,
you know, I love
you're
the
not
food there.
wrong.
Oh man, Hard Rock. Oh, you were dragging ourselves
Okay,
out.
she's got it. I
What do you
knew
got?
Laura was going to do it.
What is it called?
It's called an electric suitcase.
And
dude,
see,
right?
That's the way to go.
You just pull out the thing and stand on it like a scooter, and you can make your way through. It's a 300. It's a 20-inch board.
Love that.
And it's $320.
Love it. Yes.
Dang it, I'm not mad at that.
That is
but
so cool. That's pretty cool.
that's not. Oh, you sit on the suitcase.
That is pretty cool.
I was wrong. You sit on the suitcase.
That's really neat.
That's a hand carry though, because you can't put that
That's
on.
so awesome.
Yeah.
That is
You sit on it, and that. Oh, I can see myself.
Yeah,
Is there a weight limit?
Hmm.
Alibaba.com.
Uh-oh.
Here's another one. Okay, this one, they're called a 20-inch electric rideable suitcase. And this one looks like Amazon writing. And I don't know how much it costs. Oh, $599 for this one. Oh, this one looks like it's a little more fancy. Oh, this one you actually straddle the whole suitcase.
Oh, I love that. It's on now.
Look at that.
It is on.
You sit on it, you got the little footrest right there, and then the handlebar. Can I do this?
That looks cool.
Would you laugh at me?
No, I would be on it
Would
too.
you? I'd be packing you?
I'd be on that. Let's go.
Dude,
Where
look
we
at that.
going?
It's even got little footholds.
cool.
Look there. Under
man.
the front wheel.
I love that.
How fast do they go, I
Your
wonder?
plane left. Ah! Your plane's leaving. Zoom, zoom. It's like,
Zoom,
speed it up. Zoom, zoom.
Get out of my way. Hey, is it even fair to get on one of those people movers
crazy.
on one of those rideable suitcases?
That right.
That would
part,
get
that
you
part.
kicked out of the airport. Anyway, I think that you really do have to. You really do, I think, have
Electric
to. Yeah,
suitcases.
you have to have the long walks in the concourse between terminals. I do appreciate that, really, honestly. I do appreciate it because you're sitting on a plane for 7 to 8 hours anyway, and there's not a whole lot of, there's not a whole lot of opportunities for you to, to exercise or, stretch out, except for you standing for a long period of time. So by the time I get to the airport, I'm ready to walk it off a little bit, right? Just whatever. But I'm not mad at the suitcase. I'd so do this after I was done with the walking thing. But okay, so she's God, Laura's extra today.
She is. Okay.
Travel hands-free with a built-in 250-watt brushless motor and speeds up to 8 miles an hour. Bro, you're booking at 8 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You're booking.
Right. Yeah, I can
Spacious
see
and
that.
compact. 20-inch carry-on size, perfect for daily travel or short trips. Strong and lightweight. 240. It supports up to 240. Oh, I just made it. TSA approved lock. Secure your belongings with a built-in TSA combination lock. There's a USB charging port. Dude, fast charging, and it's airline safe. Charges in 2 hours. Battery under 100 watt hours is safe for flights.
Love it.
Okay, rideable suitcase. Set you back $599. Add that to the cost of the ticket, and you are on a vacation. Okay,
They
I'm
would
not
come
mad
in
at
handy,
that.
especially when the gate's kind of far. Be like, where's my gate at? Hold
Yeah.
on, I got it without my...
Get on that.
Yeah, you know, sometimes those gates are
Ride
pretty
that
far.
suitcase.
Yeah, or in Japan, you got to get into the subway,
Oh,
then
yeah.
you got to get out, and then you got... Yeah, you might want to...
Those long hauls are too much.
Sometimes it
LA
can be a-
airport.
yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes it can
that'll
be a
do
little
you.
longer,
Yeah, and so the other day, I think I was reading it in the PDN that you don't, obviously we know you don't have to take your shoes off anymore. And they did a story about how Guam passengers are really grateful that you don't have to, like disrobe before all of those nice TSA agents take off your shoes, undo your belts. So there's a bunch of things you can do now that you don't have to do. You don't have to take off your belt anymore. Or your shoes. I'm here for that. Okay.
You just look at them and be like, that scanner saw everything. It's like, really, do I really need to strip down some more? Can I see what you're saying? Because I feel that you've seen everything already. What do you...
Am I really big boned or am I fat?
Really? It's like, dude,
my mother has this big
it's a
bone.
car fob. I mean, it's a car
It's a
fob.
car fob.
It's like, dude, come on, guys. Like, at some point, it's like, come on, people.
I have to say that whenever I go through that machine, right, where they got to scan and you got to hold your arms up, you have to over your head. I just want to cock my left hip to the side. You know what I mean? And then it's a pose. I'm not trying to get thrown out of TSA. I'm not trying to mess with that early in the morning. I don't think that you should test the. I don't think that you should test the patience of TSA. I think you ought to just keep your nose clean, do your thing, don't crack any jokes. They're not here for that. I just woke up, just had one cup of coffee. Move it along, lady. Stop with your jokes. I don't want to hear it. I know.
I'm too friendly.
I think our TSA guys are nicer than any TSA I've ever been anywhere.
They're nice. They're really
They're
cool.
just really,
so cool.
they're just great. And plus, that what they're doing is they're seeing people they probably even know.
Yes.
They're seeing neighbors or people they work with or somebody ran in. It's like, that's a ultimate mixer.
They got tea. So
They got everything.
Are they on the flight?
Yeah.
Did he come
Did he
single?
come
or
here? Yeah, was he
is
with
his wife-
anybody?
Is his wife with him?
Was he with anybody? Did she have blonde hair?
Right. We are nosy.
Oh, you're so nosy.
We are nosy.
And then you always, and yes, like,
Separate
I'll tell you,
seats,
but
whatever. Just put them together. What do you mean separate seats? They want to sit together.
I'll meet you in the
they
bathroom.
Totally want. No, right? It's
Meet
like,
you in the bathroom. Well, speaking of,
go for it. All right, let's go.
I just was actually turned on to a story. I wasn't turned on by it, but
Okay.
I was reading a story. I'll find it anywhere any minute because I'm
The lady
slow that
sleeping
way.
in the White House?
Huh?
That's funny.
What happened? Somebody was caught sleeping in the White
She was
House?
sleeping in the White House. What was it? They got the Democrats are now being followed by cops. And
Oh, the
everything.
lady, the Democrat representative
The
from Texas.
memes are so evil.
The Collier thing. She was forced into sleeping in the congressional building because she wouldn't sign a waiver allowing for police escort to follow her because they thought she was going to flee. They treated her like a convict that was a flight risk. She was a lawmaker who was a flight risk because they worried that if she left, it would screw up the quorum.
Yeah, something to that. Yeah, I did
And
see that.
and there's a picture of her sleeping at her desk and a bunch of defenders that are out in the front screaming to set her free. Yeah. Never have I ever seen anything like this. Ever seen anything like this. So you were just saying something about flying.
Mm-hmm.
And
There we go.
people who are actually having like a relationship with them.
Okay, yeah. All right.
And then
the situationships are what they're called.
Situationships.
Situationships. Yes. Okay. So
It all well. Oh, by the way, that just kind of put Chris Martin from Coldplay on blast because he was defending his whole that camera. What do they call it? Fam cam or something like that.
That's just dumb. I'm just gonna say that's just dumb.
Really?
Anyone that's
show
sitting there
people?
dating their secretary,
they're asking
is just
for it.
Dumb. You know what I mean? It's like, really, you're dating the secretary? That's so obvious. Like, it's just the dumbest thing in the world. I'm sorry.
I mean,
you cheaters got to do better. You get the ones outside of the office, not in the workplace. I'm just gonna help you guys out, okay? I got a book coming out on how to cheat and not get caught. Don't
You
get to
do
work.
not. You do not.
Don't get in the workplace. I promise you that. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Well, there's a story out here about one of the Jonas brothers having to explain his newly acquired Mile High Club status.
Okay, he's a Jonas brother, Mile High Club. Okay.
Joe Jonas
right.
admits embarrassing mishap after joining Mile High Club.
I didn't know he. Okay, all right. He's not really the flashy one. Okay, but go ahead.
Yeah, you know what the Mile High Club is, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I wasn't
all
sure
right,
if I was just talking to my old self because a lot of people don't.
Wow.
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't know what that is.
Okay.
I'm not going to even ask you the next obvious question, so I'm going to leave it alone.
No, go for it. We're in this one here.
So he says he may have wanted to send out an SOS after dealing with an awkward interaction immediately after an intimate encounter. He detailed an embarrassing memory that he says keeps him up at night. He seemingly caught the love bug on a flight a few years ago and became a member of the Mile High Club. When he was heading back to his seat, he mistook the friend he was attempting to high-five for someone else. I joined the Mile High Club a couple years ago. I was wearing contacts, left the bathroom. I thought I was high-fiving my drummer. At the high-five, I realized it was the flight attendant. Despite the unfortunate time, Jonas is looking on the bright side. At least it didn't happen on a regular flight. It was a private. Oh, okay, that's not even worth it.
Yeah,
Shut up. Shut up, you entitled, embarrassed person. Nobody cares.
That's what I was saying. I was like, Patty, fast forward this story.
I know. I didn't know. Yeah, there's got to be saying he high-fived a flight attendant. Whoa, how embarrassing. So what, bro? People don't even go into the bathroom for the Mile High Club when you're on a private jet.
It's the Mile High.
It's the Mile High Club.
You
The
know what I
whole
mean? It's like
the whole plane is your bathroom.
It's right.
You don't need to be
ew.
hiding.
It's like, ooh, Mile High Club.
Just don't
It's just-
sit in the same seat.
Yeah, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I'm good. That was a dumb story.
Don't
Sorry I
wanna
even
be in
read
a
it.
Mile High
I'm
Club.
sorry I read it. I just that
Skip
led you.
that club. Skip that club.
So what I was going to tell you before the
Okay.
break about do you
Okay.
see this thing on hot? Because Ern said,
All right.
yeah, I still listen to you. And I was laughing like still. There's a whole vibe going on TikTok where people are pranking their loved ones. And it's
Okay.
mostly women pranking their men because they're so gullible.
Love it.
They say, they pretend they're talking to someone.
Okay.
And they say, my current boyfriend. Have you seen that? Or my current husband. Right. And then you get the reaction. Like, what do you mean current girlfriend? My current girlfriend.
Since day one, you mean?
Yeah, since day, yeah. You mean, yeah. Your current
day one?
Yeah. Currently now, if you don't change that
Past,
message,
future,
yeah.
and present. It's like, what do you mean? Current. That's pretty cool.
So what's on your algorithm?
I got the lady sleeping in the White House memes going on. That's pretty
Okay.
funny. I know they're savage. Social media can be evil sometimes.
Oh, man.
Taking everything out of context, create a whole meme on it. It's like it's funny, but I shouldn't be laughing. It's like God, am I
But
laughing?
it's the comments that people have. It can be one of those stories, but it's the comments that people have. One on mine. It's always going to be Gavin Newsom because he's in the middle of his anti-Trump push, and he's posting in the same grammar type of writing, and the formation of the sentences and the punctuation. He's mirroring everything that Donald Trump is doing everywhere. And he's getting the goad of people who support Trump but don't like what Gavin Newsom is doing. They're like, how can you be so disrespectful? And they're like, do you know that the president does this? This is how he does this. So he did one about Kid Rock. Okay. And it was just this mimic of Kid Rock, apparently, put his hands on his shoulder. I saw him and a bunch of other Hulk Hogan. It's an AI-generated photo of all of them standing around Hulk, Kid Rock, and a couple of other Trump loyalists that are standing there holding onto his shoulder, basically giving them their blessing that what you're doing is right. Kid Rock responds, and there's another one. It's Kid Rock with his finger pointed like Uncle Sam. And so it's Gavin Newsom created this. Well, AI created it, and then Gavin posted it. And Kid Rock comes back, and he's mouthing off at Gavin because he's using an image of himself and saying he doesn't endorse him, while Gavin is just doing what Trump did when he used Taylor Swift and said falsely that she endorsed him. And he was like saying she endorsed me. I got the endorsement of Taylor Swift. She ends up putting out a post saying that she was endorsing Kamala Harris. And then Trump says, I hate Taylor Swift. He puts out the I hate Taylor Swift, you saw that all on X. Well, Gavin did the same thing. He makes fun of Kid Rock, as in he's standing by him and all of his, antics on trying to make fun of Trump. And Gavin wrote back, I hate Kid Rock. And so what's happening right now is that people all over the country are saying that Gavin Newsom is going low when the Democrats should be going high. Remember the famous blurt by former First Lady Michelle Obama when she says, when they go low, we go high. That was like a chant for her at the National Convention. And so people are saying, what happened to this whole slogan about going, look how Gavin Newsom has stooped so low. And Newsom's response is, this is what Trump has been doing. I'm literally mimicking everything that he's doing, down to the capital letters, the loud screaming sentences, the punctuation marks, all of it is what Trump does whenever he gets on X. Why are you coming for me doing the same thing? At least mine, it's serious content, but he's jokingly doing it. And some people, mostly Trump loyalists, are not having it. Okay, bottom of the hour again. Yeah, we'll take a quick break here. Be right back.
Taste the best of both worlds at Ruby Tuesday, located in GPO Tamuning. Enjoy local favorites like beef tanaktak, New York steak with hog and suni dip, and local moco. Or go big with premium American classics, ribs, steaks, burgers, and pasta made to order. And if you love a good salad bar, their Endless Garden Bar is unbeatable. With handcrafted drinks and refreshing island teas, every meal hits the spot. Ruby Tuesday, your table is ready.
It's the Guam Autospot Overstock Sell-Off, and our manager is absolutely crazy for dropping these deals. Right now, drive off in a brand new 2025 Eclipse Cross for just $24,995. That's $2,000 off the original price. Plus, check out our high-quality pre-owned vehicles, fully inspected and ready for the road. Get pre-approved online at GuamAutospot.com or call 478-AUTO to schedule your test drive today. It's the Guam Autospot Overstock Sell-Off, and everything must go.
Pat's Tinting and Detailing offers premier services from complete interior cleaning and VIP detailing. And to keep you cool, Pat's also offers factory, ceramic, blacked out, and based-approved auto tinting. For more information, call 647-SLAM.
At Way 105 FM, we're more than just a station. We're your platform, your voice, your conversation. We're talking about what matters most to you today and in our future. And we want you to be part of it. Got something to say? We're listening. Different opinions? Bring them on. Let's talk, let's debate, let's connect, because every voice counts. Call or WhatsApp us at 671-922-1051. And if that line's busy, hit us up at 922-1052. This is Talk Radio for everyone. This is Wave 105 FM, the Talk of Guam.
The new and improved Chili's 3 for Me deal is here. Starting at $12.99, get a drink, an appetizer, and an entree. You heard right. You can get a Coke, chips and salsa, and an old timer with cheese for only $12.99. Only at Chili's. Great food and value happen here.
Hafa Adai, Guausi Pali Suba. Don't forget to catch the bright side every weekday afternoon from 2 to 6 on Wave 105. From big laughs to big issues, if it's happening on Island, we're breaking it down with Island leaders, business owners, and you. I want to send so much love to our sponsors, Micropack, Local Jerk, GTA, Sherwin-Williams Paint, Chili's, and Subway. Take a break from all of that shade and join the bright side on Wave 105.
Nothing but the best. Wave 105 FM.
Okay, let's see. Where are we? I'm just sort of going through a lot of messages that I'm so sorry that I didn't actually get to. We had a conversation, and I'm so grateful to the conversation that I had with Leslie Travis, because she actually opened up a attorney can with so many of attorneys from the Guam Bar Association that are practicing on Guam. That used to work for the Attorney General's office, at one time was a deputy AG or something, weighing in on the scariness of this Section 35 in the budget bill, which calls for more classified employees to include attorneys within the Attorney General's office. And it was attempted last night by Senator Will Parkinson to strike number 35 off the section off the budget bill. And he weighed in a couple days before about how he still has issues with the Attorney General's office. So yesterday, in a couple of, I don't know which bite is the one that I want to use, but I think this is before, after, or during the vote. Obviously, there was one that was after. But here's Parkinson last night talking about how they were doing this not only out of the regular line of sight of viewers who would typically be watching this, or probably later in the evening not paying attention to the legislature. I'm hoping that this is the bite, but they're all related. I've got three of them. They're all related to the AGs. Here's Senator Will Parkinson.
To delete Section 35 of Chapter 12 of the bill. And the reason for this is, I'm not going to read the letter again from the legal community. I don't need to belabor that point. But there's clearly some concerns regarding some of these provisions. And they've mentioned at least three of them. But I'm comfortable removing these two provisions because they are brand new provisions that have never had a public hearing or have been really litigated in public. And with the concerns we're getting from so many people in the legal community and some of my own concerns with the practices of the Office of the Attorney General, I think it's best if we have this conversation in the daylight, in the public hearing room, with the people of Guam watching, with everybody getting to make their case. Otherwise, we could be setting ourselves up to have to come back in here and fix this problem. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask my colleagues to repeal this Section 30, or the Section 35 and Section 41, and let's have this conversation properly.
Okay, so that was the first one. Here's the second one.
Looking at this language here, the Attorney General shall set the salaries for positions for which salaries are not set by law, and he basically gets a free rein
to hire unclassified employees. In any other executive agency department, we would not stand for this. What this amendment does, and it's doing this at a time when there is an all-time low trust in government, that we want to give them more hiring authority for unclassified positions with no real oversight, when this Attorney General is hiring his family members, filtering his employment with loyalty as his primary currency, and not loyalty to the law or to the people of Guam or to the Constitution or to the Organic Act. He wants to hire people that are loyal to him, citing people like John F. Kennedy hiring his own brother as justification for him doing the same. And honestly, that's just kind of gross. That really is. If this bill, if this provision is so needed, then let's have the conversation in the daylight, talking about it openly. Because there has been no real oversight on the Attorney General. Meth found in his office, hiring family members willy-nilly, these absurd signs all over the world talking about hot girl summer. Like, is that what we're spending our taxpayer dollars on? I spoke to OFB. They got $8 million, $7 million in lapse funds, with the justification being that they want to hire more unclassified people during this next year, which just happens to coincide with an election year. Go figure. And so I come at this bill with an awful lot of skepticism. And I don't think it's justified to sneak in this provision in the dead of night at nearly midnight on the last day of budget hearings. It's just not right. And so I would ask, and we're also talking about repealing other sections that were in last year. That was something that the legal community asked for, because it is of their opinion that the Attorney General is abusing some of those provisions so he can hire employees while violating principles of merit. There are so many question marks about the practices of the Attorney General and what kind of house he's running over there, that I feel a great deal of trepidation giving this kind of power to the Attorney General, especially at the protest of so many people of our legal community who come from all stripes, all economic backgrounds, all party affiliations. They are united in this message. I certainly wouldn't support giving the Attorney General these blank checks if all it's going to lead is to more family members being hired. So I ask this body to pump the brakes on this Attorney General who is just doing whatever he wants with very little oversight.
So that's him sort of in the middle of it. And then finally we see that the vote has been, the amendment had been, or the move to strike it completely from the budget bill was voted down, and it was generally partisan. And the reaction comes from him. I won't play you the entire thing, but you'll get the gist of what we're all talking about right here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm disappointed that we are passing legislation for the Attorney General in the dead of night. And so I don't expect that we're going to have much success with this amendment. It's really disappointing. All we're calling for is accountability here, especially with the great outcry for our legal community.
but it's clear that based on partisan lines, they're going to protect one another. I got great questions about the impartiality of the oversight on this Attorney General from this body. I've seen news reports in the news that the Attorney General is actively trying to, represent members of this body in trial using resources of the Attorney General. And I think that that puts great amounts of conflict, that we are giving expanded powers and carte blanche spending to the Attorney General. And I gotta ask why? What are we doing here? Are we... I won't go there. But it stinks. It stinks to high heaven, and we already know that this Attorney General trades in loyalty. And with his providing of legal services, I'm sure he's buying a lot of it. And I am hoping that the body can see some reason. And forgive me, my people of Guam, it's very, very late over here. Like I was saying, we are trying to pass these provisions, opening up the floodgates for corrupt hiring practices in the dead of night.
That's the gist of it. And that's what Leslie Travis was on the radio sort of, adding to the conversation, that this is a really scary time. Not only is it a thing, an issue of hiring people who are loyalists, because loyalists clearly would do anything their boss tells them to do, whether it's right or if it's wrong. Second of all, if you do feel like you have to stand up and maybe you were fired, and there's cause to show that that was unlawful termination, you don't have a fighting chance as a unclassified employee. So what you're building is a nest of possible attorneys, right, that are coming into this with absolutely no recourse to any actions they might take if they disagree with the boss, being Doug. And it's obvious in this one of the cases of late where you had a very celebrated attorney, celebrated in the fact that he came to Guam because he was hired and did a whole news release on how this find was the best attorney position, and he celebrated himself because he caught the good eye of a guy who was an attorney for a long time and in the mainland and is barred everywhere and comes to Guam and he wants to come home and do his work. And he was a stellar member of the legal community. And then within months, the guy walked. And so when you look at the news release that celebrated, this guy is this guy, he's it, he's the one. And then these departures, the departure is unceremonious. Trust me, they had no goodbye party at the AG's office for him. And then the question is, why did you leave? And depending on who you talk to, the answer is going to be somewhere around, I was being asked to do something that was not ethical. I was asked to do a task or a project that was outside the borders of the agreement that I had to take this employment. So I'm going to be doing something that I really don't want to do, that I think in my heart and in my soul and in my whole lawyer expertise, this is not right. And so, yeah, morality gets the best of some of the really good people. And they may not look like they're always going to win, but in the end they will. Because out of now is a highly sought attorney. I had a couple of law offices when we talked about it. I'm not talking about just one or two, calling me up going, where do I get a hold of him? I want to give this guy a job, but a law firm had already had the appointment that day. So I was like, listen, I don't know how to get a hold of him, but I'm going to let you know, law firm X just now called me and said they were already in conversation, so you might have all lost out on it. But the point is that you had good people that walked away. And, what is the reason why a good person will walk away is because they're being forced to do something that's bad. And so people are going to knock down the doors to get to them because that's demonstrates that somebody is a good employee. Others don't necessarily have the luxury, like Leslie was pointing out. I haven't even thought about this part of it, but that they're perfectly good people that are qualified for the job. The expense of getting them here, but remember that we're wooing them, we're courting them. His fiance is the one. Ms. Hawkins is the one who's apparently on the active search committee because that's how she's justifying being in this position at all. Is her ability to go do the manhunt for attorneys who want to move to Guam. So I'm sure that in the wooing process, you're paying a lot for the first date, right? You're going to wow them and try to lure them here, especially if they've never been here. So you get these guys here. They're at the mercy of the person who gave them the pitch that this was a good job. And everything said yes. Going to a place I'd never been to, still on U.S. territory, still on U.S. land, that is going, with this really great salary, and I'm going to live the high life. And then you get here and you're like, whoa, what, you want me to do what? Man, I don't think I could do that. Walk. Where are they going? They're from McDouterville. Where are they going when they land on Guam? Nowhere. And I think her point is, now they're just displaced workers. Now they're just guys that are unemployed with no options because guess what? They're not barred here. In fact, you don't have to be barred here for several years. And so that doesn't mean that you're going to still get the top dollar or you're going to be able to practice in a law firm. Now you're just a trainee, right? So you're coming into these public agencies that need legal counsel. They need legal counsel at its barest minimum. You're not going to court. You're not going to be fighting anybody in anything because you're not barred to be here to practice like that. So they take on these jobs within the government of Guam that don't pay the same salary because they're living high on the hog at the OG's office when it comes to salaries. Obviously, you see it. So now you've just got a bunch of, highly paid attorneys within 2-3 months of the time that they land here becoming displaced workers with zero contacts. And they can't fight it either because this Section 35 will not allow for them to even go and fight it. The biggest case of somebody going to civil service, there have been several, but I think the one that stands out the most is Brian Cruz, the investigator, who went and won and got paid handsomely, I'm sure, for the time that he wasn't getting paid, for supposedly leaking an internal memo within the Attorney General's office to the subject of the letter, who is Attorney Pete Santos, and got fired for it. And he went to the Civil Service Commission. And, that's one of the bigger cases, the Civil Service Commission, to argue the point that that wasn't a leakage. That was like a matter of public consumption. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that he doesn't want to do that again. Well, let's see. It's Thursday. Ooh,
I heard ooh.
Yeah, Thursday.
Ooh.
Okay, so we've got a couple of things happening. Are we still doing the Pinoy Friends one?
Okay, that's ooh. Yeah.
Right? Are they here?
Yeah.
Luella, LaSonia? Yeah. I will say the last time I heard that show, Ed Suarez was on.
He was on it.
I could not get out of the parking lot of Happy Mart.
He's that great.
It was him, it was Luella, and it was Reese. I could have died. I was like, I needed Depends that day because I laughed so hard. I even wrote a note to Kyle and I was like, how are we going to keep this girl on the radio?
Aren't they great?
Yeah.
She is that great.
She is that
great. She's that great.
Who thought? Luella,
that great.
she's deceiving this one. She's deceiving. You think that she's just like quietly observing, and the girl's got stuff to say.
She's got a lot up her sleeves.
She
She
really does. She's a great person, and she happens to be a wonderful journalist all at the same time. But Ed Suarez, I've got to say, can I write a review already? I mean, a daily review comes, but last night he was the host of the Salvation Army Rock Aid concert.
Yeah. Okay.
He had 3 hours notice to do this gig.
Oh.
And you know, in this business, 3 hours notice might as well be a lifetime. You know what I mean? You can do you don't need a whole lot of preparation when you're a good host for 3 hours. It's like, okay, get me on the stage already. Give me 2 minutes, and I'm
We're ready.
Yeah, he could do it, and I know you too.
We're
once you
born
get
for this.
once you hit that stage, you get that bug, and you're good at it. I don't need a whole lot of prep time. Just give me the mic. Shut up. Let's go.
I'm good. I got it from there.
I got it from here.
I got it from
Stay
there.
away.
Just give me that mic.
Let me have it. Just let me have. And so
Stay out the way.
I had so many people who don't go to some of these events that he's been hosting, because I've seen him do weddings, and he's hilarious at them. I've seen him do forums. I've seen him do stage work and other things. I saw him last doing the concert. I cannot tell you how funny this kid is. But the best part about it is that we could dog him. What are you hiding for, Luella? I can see you. She's looking at the mirror. I'm looking in the glass, and she's hiding.
She's fixing her face too?
No, she's just looking at me, running away like I'm going to not say anything about. Oh, hello. Oh, there's ladies. Hi there, ladies. Oh, you're going to meet them all. You're going to meet them all in a couple of minutes, because that's what's happening. Our Pinoy friends are on the radio right now, and then we've got Sustainability Waves, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right.
Because it's Thursday.
You are
and then,
on
of course, you got to hit the Thursday version of The Bright Side this afternoon from 2 until 6.
The money.
That's the Thursday I'm talking about.
There you go.
Time for us to make our way out of here.
That's
Dice is going next door. Catch her on Power 98 from 10 to 2. You want to keep laughing? Keep tuning in on that station. You're going to find her there.
All the male doulas.
Gross.
It is. Isn't it? God help me.
I know. She's on it.
Help me.
Dice is on it. Male doula.
Thank you.
Some people's like, that's not a hookup date, brother. This is not Tinder.
No,
you can't be a male doula.
Not at all.
No, it's past the point. Past the point. All right, we're Mornings with Patty. I'm Patty.
I'm Dice.
It's 10 a.m. KGUM-FM in Daddy Go Home. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow, Friday.
Yes,
thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
KGUM-FM. Daddy Do. The talk of Guam is Wave 105 FM.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Cammie McCormick. Hurricane Erin is offshore, but it's a big storm and it's kicking up dangerous waves. CBS's Rob Marciano begins our coverage from the Outer Banks in North Carolina.
The rip currents are an issue. We've had dozens of rescues down at Wrightsville Beach the past couple of days. We've got beaches that are closed not just here, but as far north as New York and New Jersey because this storm continues to grow its wind field.
Jim Krasula has more.
Many are tempting fate, ignoring warnings to stay out of the churned up water along the East Coast. This man is surfing at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
The riptide isn't really too bad today. The undertow was pretty bad for swimmers, but for surfing, it's a good day.
Hurricane Erin is expected to cause significant beach erosion at many places on the East Coast.
A federal judge has rejected the government's request to unseal grand jury transcripts in the Jeffrey Epstein case. Linda Kenyon reports.
The judge stated
no victims testified before the grand jury in the sex trafficking case against Epstein, who was once a friend of President Trump's. The judge also said information from the grand jury transcripts, quote, pales in comparison to the Epstein investigative information and materials in the hands of the Department of Justice, and characterized the transcript request as a diversion from the breadth and scope of the files the government already has. Trump administration officials requested the transcripts amid growing demands from the president's base. Linda Kenyon, CBS News, the White House.
Military officials from NATO held a virtual meeting today to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine. Charlie D'Agata has that.
There's already been pushback from the Kremlin, again, warning that any NATO role in Ukraine could amount to an uncontrolled escalation. So there are a lot of questions there.
Imagine boarding your next flight without having to present your boarding pass to an agent at the gate. Travel editor Peter Greenberg on the latest TSA advances.
For a long time now, both the TSA and Clear, the private operator, have been working on biometric and facial recognition. This takes it one step further and actually bypasses the need for a personal inspection by a TSA officer.
Target has a new CEO, as Matt Piper reports.
A 20-year veteran at Target who was its COO will now be CEO. It comes after its current CEO says he's stepping down in February. But some retail analysts are surprised the board did not pick a candidate from outside the company to turn things around. Customers have recently been complaining of messy stores with merchandise that has not reflected the expensive-looking but budget-price niche that earned the retailer the nickname Target.
Stocks finished mixed today on Wall Street. The Nasdaq was lower again for a second day. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owe the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now.